From Zlatan crying to the most terrifying crash in history, these are the most emotional moments in football. And first, the most heartbreaking transfer in football history. After securing a big money move from Nantes to Cardiff in 2019, Emiliano Sala was finally on his way to achieving the dream that so many young footballers pray for their entire lives. The contract was signed, the deal was done, and Premier League football was waiting. He boarded the plane that would take him to Wales to begin this new chapter. But there was a problem. His pilot, David Ibbotson, wasn't comfortable with the state of the aircraft.
David Ibbotson raised concerns about the plane.
I picked a footballer up from Cardiff. He's just been bought from Nantes. I think it's about £20 million worth or something. They've entrusted me to pick him up in a Dodge Mirage. Normally have the life jacket in your seats, but tomorrow we're wearing the life jacket, that's for sure. This aircraft, I think it's got to go back in the hangar. Might be your last chance to have a good old chat with me in a good old boat tomorrow. Normally have the life jacket.
Salah was concerned too, sending a voice note to his family saying that the plane looked like it was falling apart.
Hermanitos, ¿cómo andan loquitos locos? Hermano, estoy muerto.
Así que nada, muchachos. Estoy acá arriba del avión que me parece que se está poca de a pedazos. En 1 hora y media no tiene novedades mías. No sé si van a mandar a alguien a buscarme porque no me van a encontrar, pero ya saben. Papá, qué miedo que tengo.
Shortly after he sent that message, the airplane vanished into thin air. News of the disappearance sent shockwaves through the football world. Rescuers searched over 1,000 miles across the sea, hoping by some miracle both men would be found alive. Football stars like Mbappe, Gundogan, Koscielny, and Payet donated over $500,000 to the rescue effort because nobody wanted to give up hope. But after 2 weeks of intense searching, the worst possible news was confirmed.
The depths of the English Channel, the plane's final resting place. For the first time, we can show you moving pictures of the wreckage in a tragedy that touched a number of lives.
The plane was found 220 feet deep underwater with Salah's lifeless body still strapped inside. His pilot, David Ibbotson, was never found. Their families, the fans, the entire football world plunged into mourning over a dream that turned into tragedy.
Its way towards Dudek.
But sometimes tragedy strikes not during travel, but right there on the pitch in front of thousands. In the 72nd minute of a match between Dinamo Bucharest and Viitorul, Cameroonian midfielder Patrick Ecking suddenly slumped to the ground, completely motionless. The referee immediately stopped the game, and everyone rushed to his aid as he struggled and fought for his life. An ambulance came and took him to the hospital, but after 2 hours, he was pronounced dead. The news sent shockwaves across the footballing world, as yet again a young player had passed away while simply playing the game he loved. Tributes poured in from everywhere, but it was the farewell organized by his own fans that brought tears. The banners designed in his honor, the entire stadium singing his name, making sure he would never be forgotten. But while fans mourn players, sometimes they also have to say goodbye to the legends who gave them everything. After calling an end to his illustrious career, the players, fans, and management of AC Milan came together to bid farewell to a legend who had given so much to the club and the city. Zlatan Ibrahimovic emerged from the tunnel to a red carpet reception befitting a king, his name being sung so loudly it could be heard across all of Milan. Without a doubt, he meant everything to everyone in that stadium. The fans couldn't control their tears because this was his final goodbye. And Zlatan, a lion who'd been tough throughout his entire career, softened by so much love and affection, couldn't hide his own tears either. This is what happens when a man's legendary status at a club is sealed forever, when goodbye isn't just a word, but the end of an era. But saying goodbye to players is one thing. Losing an owner who brought glory back is something that cuts even deeper. After a match between Leicester City and West Ham United, Leicester owner Vichai Srivadhanaprabha, alongside 4 others, boarded a helicopter that would take them from the stadium to the airport. As the pilot took off from within the King Power Stadium, the tail rotor control linkage broke, sending the helicopter into an uncontrollable spin. It struck the ground about 200 meters away, killing everyone on board.
The BBC has been told the owner of Leicester City Football Club was on board the helicopter that crashed and burst into flames just minutes after taking off from the King Power Stadium last night.
The news shook the entire world as people struggled to come to terms with what had happened. The owner, who had brought Premier League glory back to Leicester City, was gone. Fans gathered in their thousands, crying and paying tribute to a man they'd loved deeply.
Just terrible, because they're such nice people, really genuine, humble people that care for the community and for the club and the people. It's just terrible.
Just thoughts of everybody on board, you know, the pilots, the family, everybody. It's just the thoughts are for them and their families, really.
For the players, he was like a father figure. He loved each of them and wasn't shy to show it. When the time came to bury him, the entire team traveled halfway around the world to his home country of Thailand to attend his funeral. After paying their last respects, they came back to England, and on their first match after his death, a goal scored by Demarai Gray sent the entire stadium into tears.
55 on the clock, and how much does this goal mean to Demarai Gray and Leicester City Football Club?
That one was for you, Vichai. But sometimes tragedy doesn't happen by accident. Sometimes it's deliberate and cruel. After losing their opening game of the 1994 World Cup to Romania, Andres Escobar led his Colombian teammates out against tournament hosts USA, hoping to turn things around. But catastrophe struck when a cross flew into the box and Escobar stretched to block it, only for the ball to tragically bounce off his leg into his own net. Things got worse as USA doubled their lead, and despite all their efforts, Colombia lost 2-1. They won their final group match 2-0 against Switzerland, but it wasn't enough. They were eliminated. With Colombian hopes crushed, Escobar became the most hated footballer in his country, many blaming the entire elimination on his own goal. Instead of hiding in Miami with his brother, Escobar chose to return home to Colombia, telling his sister, "I want to go to Colombia and show my face." 5 days after elimination, he took friends out to a club in Medellin. And after having a good time, sat in his car waiting for them. 2 men pulled up beside him and shot him 6 times. He was rushed to the hospital, but after just 45 minutes, he was declared dead.
Llena de vergüenza. Le gritaban, gracias por el autogol. Tenía toda una vida por delante.
And as heartbreaking as that murder was, nothing could prepare you for what's coming in our top 10. You're about to witness a childhood trauma.
At 6, I was molested by my mom's friend.
A father losing his newborn child. And another player collapsing on the pitch. But before we get to those, we have to see one of the greatest players in history saying goodbye in tears. Messi saying goodbye to Barcelona, a day the entire football world genuinely believed would never come.
Buen día. La verdad que no sé si va a poder hablar. En estos últimos días estuve pensando, dándole vuelta a ver qué iba a decir, qué podía decir. La verdad que no me salía nada. Estaba bloqueado, como no estoy ahora todavía. Es muy difícil esto para mí. Después de tantos años, no estaba preparado. Gracias a todo el mundo.
There he was, standing at the podium, unable to control himself, crying so bitterly that it still haunts Barcelona fans to this day. And who could blame them for never recovering? Messi was Barcelona, and Barcelona was Messi. Yet there he was, crying his eyes out, bidding farewell to the club he truly called home, the only club he'd ever known. The worst part was when he admitted through tears that he didn't want to leave, that he'd done everything to stay, but it wasn't enough.
No sé, lo que tengo claro es que yo sí hice todo lo posible. El club, la Porta, dijo que no se pudo por un tema de liga, pero escuché muchísimas cosas que se dijo sobre mí, por qué no seguía o lo que sea, pero te puedo asegurar que de mi parte también hice todo lo posible para quedarme, porque quería quedarme. El año pasado no quería quedarme y también lo dije, y este año sí que quería y no se pudo.
I don't think any Barca fan will ever be able to recover from the trauma of watching their greatest ever player forced out, tears streaming down his face, saying goodbye when goodbye was the last thing anyone wanted. But while Messi cried for a club, one young boy cried for his life. During a match between Den Bosch and Dordrecht, a group of overzealous fans lit up fireworks and bombs in the stands. Upon hearing the explosions, the ball boy, who was sitting directly in front of the fans, panicked and ran onto the pitch, crying and completely traumatized. Seeing how terrified the boy was, the referee immediately stopped the game and ordered everyone to leave the pitch for safety. Sometimes protection comes from referees. Sometimes it comes from an entire stadium coming together. On April 18, 2022, Cristiano Ronaldo took to social media to make one of the most heartbreaking posts anyone has ever seen.
It is with the deepest sadness we have to announce that our baby boy has passed away. Only the birth of our baby girl gives us the strength to live this moment with some hope and happiness. Our baby boy, you are our angel. We will always love you.
Ronaldo and his partner, Georgina, had lost one of their newborn twins. I cannot imagine the horror of a parent losing a child.
She's with me. It's something that I want to hold for the rest of my life. And pass through in that moment was probably the most difficult moment that I had in my life, me and my family especially.
And the rest of the footballing world shared this sentiment as tributes poured in from everywhere. Ronaldo and his Manchester United teammates were scheduled to play Liverpool at Anfield the next day. But because of his devastating loss, he was given time off to grieve. On match day, something extraordinary happened at Anfield that reminded everyone what football is really about. In the 7th minute of the game, the entire Liverpool crowd, thousands of fans who would normally be booing Ronaldo, gave him a standing ovation. As the words, "You'll never walk alone," echoed throughout the stadium.
Now, this is a great moment where Anfield rises in support of Cristiano Ronaldo. This fan-led minute's applause. Certainly not just the Manchester United fans, all of the Liverpool fans right the way around Anfield. Football comes together. Everybody in football knows what's really important, and that is what has happened to Cristiano Ronaldo. And that's a wonderful moment of support for our number 7 with a minute's applause.
It reminded us that no matter the rivalry on the pitch, humanity comes first. But humanity also shows itself in the midst of intense matches. With the match between Austria Vienna and Wolfsberger drawing to a close, Vienna's George Tegel collided with an opponent's knee and fell to the ground, completely unconscious. While most players on the pitch didn't even notice what had happened, Wolfsberger's Luka Lokoshvili realized the seriousness immediately and rushed to his aid. When he got there, he noticed Tegel had swallowed his tongue and was seconds from choking to death. Without hesitation, Lokoshvili shoved his fingers into Tegel's mouth and pulled his tongue out so he could breathe again. When it comes to saving lives, you don't think, you just act. But sometimes saving yourself feels impossible. After making his debut for Tottenham at just 18 years old, Dele Alli took the Premier League by absolute storm.
And Ali has drifted in, and Ali finishes with real style.
They're not stopping the crosses coming in here, Palace. Ali, great skill. Oh, what a goal!
He scored goals, provided assists, and became a key member of the young, exciting squad that had everyone talking. The future looked unlimited. But after Mourinho arrived as a manager, Dele fell out of favor, and from that moment, his career began to decline rapidly.
Probably the saddest moment for me was when Mourinho was manager. I think I was 24. And I remember there was one session, like one morning I woke up, I had to go training. This is when he'd stopped playing me. And I was in a bad place, and I remember just looking in the mirror, and I was asking if I could retire now. At 24, you know, doing the thing I love. For me, that was heartbreaking. To even have had that thought at 24 to want to retire, that hurt me a lot. That was another thing that I had to carry. Like, I don't blame Mourinho, I don't blame anyone, you know. My reaction to that wasn't right, but it wasn't something I had control over. It was my reality of when I was younger, the traumas I had, things I dealt with throughout my life.
This fall from grace pushed Dele into severe depression. But in 2023, he decided he had to do better. He checked himself into a rehab center in the USA, and after 6 weeks, came out a different man. Dele sat down for an interview with Gary Neville, and that's when the world finally heard his story.
I mean, I think there was a few incidents that can give you kind of a brief understanding. At 6, I was molested by my mum's friend who was at the house a lot. So my mum was an alcoholic. 7, I started smoking. 8, I started dealing. 11, I was hung off a bridge.
By who?
A guy from the next estate, a man. Sorry.
Even Neville couldn't hold back his tears after hearing everything Dele had been through. I'm not crying, you are. But as emotional as addiction and recovery are, nothing could prepare you for the next 5 moments. Because we're about to see a player collapse on the pitch, a legend's daughter crying, and a tragedy so devastating that an entire football club was nearly destroyed. Let's begin with the scariest moment of Euro 2020. 41 minutes into the Euro 2020 match between Denmark and Finland, Danish star Christian Eriksen suddenly collapsed on the pitch. No contact, no warning, just dropped. The stadium, which had been roaring with cheering fans, suddenly fell completely silent as the crowd looked on in desperate hope and prayer. Eriksson's wife was in the stands looking on in complete despair, having to be comforted by Kjaer. The rest of the world waited. Hundreds of millions of people just waiting for any news, hoping desperately until finally word broke that he had survived.
På Rigshospitalet, der kom de også op flere gange og sagde, at der kom flere blomster, og der kom flere blomster. Og det er jo lidt underligt, fordi det var ikke fordi jeg ligesom ønskede, at folk skulle sende blomster, fordi jeg ligesom var død i 5 minutter. Så det var sådan lidt, det var specielt, det var meget specielt. Men igen, det var sødt, at folk ville, og det igen, altså det har kun hjulpet, at der er kommet så mange best wishes.
Having seen so many players pass away from cardiac arrest, it was genuinely heartwarming to see him pull through against all odds. But while Eriksson survived, not every legend gets to live forever. For millions of football fans across the world, especially in Argentina, Diego Maradona wasn't just a footballer, he was a god who came to live among men. His skills and talent were matched only by his love for life itself, and when he died on November 25, 2020, millions were plunged into mourning. While he was alive, perhaps the one thing he loved above everything else was his daughter Dalma. Since she was a child, they would play together and watch matches together, especially matches involving his beloved Boca Juniors. So when Boca Juniors dedicated a goal to Maradona after he passed away, Dalma was there in the stands, and she just had to let it all out. But while stadium tributes honor the dead, sometimes death comes so suddenly that nobody has time to prepare.
An Italian soccer player died earlier today on the pitch. Born midfielder Pier Mario Morosini suffering cardiac arrest.
On April 14, 2012, during a match between Pescara and Livorno, midfielder Pier Mario Morosini suddenly collapsed in the 31st minute. He tried to get up but lost consciousness and fell to the ground as medics rushed to the field. The whole stadium was in shock. Players and staff were crying, biting their nails, hoping desperately for the best. He was stretched onto an ambulance, and it seemed he would get the help he needed. But while the ambulance was rushing to the hospital, Morosini tragically died just minutes away from Santos Spirito Hospital. The news spread fast, and the entire Italian football community was thrown into mourning. All Italian football matches were suspended that weekend as tributes poured in.
An Italian soccer player died earlier today on the pitch. Born midfielder Pier Mario Morosini suffering cardiac arrest and collapsing during a Serie B match. As a result, all Italian matches this weekend were called off.
During his funeral, thousands of fans lined the streets of Bergamo, applauding and touching his coffin as it passed. The only family he had left was his disabled sister, who had now lost her only hope of surviving. But what happened next destroyed an entire team. February 6, 1958. After defeating Red Star Belgrade to advance to the European Cup semifinals, the airplane carrying the Manchester United team and staff stopped to refuel in Munich, Germany. After refueling, the pilots twice abandoned takeoff because they noticed a fault in the left engine.
Ignition boost switches off. Ignition boost switches off.
The players returned to the airport lounge, and by then, it had started snowing heavily. However, fearful of being behind schedule, the captain called everyone back for a third attempt.
I'm ready to taxi, over.
Beeline 609, your clearance void if not airborne by 0.
Roger, understand. Valid to 04.
As the plane gained speed, power suddenly dropped, making it impossible to lift off. Despite their best efforts, the aircraft skidded off the runway and crashed.
The pilots know what they're doing.
Something goes wrong.
Christ, we're not going to make it!
Goalkeeper Harry Gregg regained consciousness, saw a hole above him, kicked it wide open, and escaped. He then helped teammates Bobby Charlton and Dennis Viollet, who were still trapped in their seats. Out of 44 people on board, 23 died and 21 survived. This crash shocked the world and absolutely crippled Manchester United. The disaster decimated the spine of the team nicknamed the Busby Babes. It took Manchester United over 10 years to finally recover from the tragedy. But as devastating as that tragedy was, nothing could prepare the football world for what happened in 2025.
The funeral of Liverpool forward Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva has taken place in Gondomar, just outside Porto.
In October 2024, Diogo Jota suffered a serious lung injury after colliding with Chelsea's Tosin Adarabioyo. The injury sidelined him for over a month, but since he could play through the pain, Jota chose to delay proper treatment until the season ended. When the season finally finished, he underwent surgery to address the damage. After successful surgery, Jota was advised against air travel until fully recovered. But since he had to attend his own wedding, Jota decided to travel by road instead. He and his brother Andre drove successfully to Portugal, where preparations were in full swing. After spending a week with families celebrating, it was time for Jota to return to the UK for Liverpool's pre-season tour. He and his brother took their Lamborghini once again to travel back. While traveling on a highway near Zamora in Spain, the tire burst while they were overtaking another vehicle, and then the next morning, the worst possible news broke. Diogo Jota and his brother Andre were dead. When images of the crash surfaced, they broke everyone's hearts. The accident scene was just ash and smoke. The car couldn't even be recognized. They stood no chance. The tributes started flooding in immediately. Fans gathered outside Anfield to pay their respects with flowers and scarves. Teammates, coaches, and everyone connected with football paid tribute to the two lives tragically cut short in their prime.
Diogo was really a nice guy. And people in Liverpool, they know what I'm saying is the truth. Something really crazy. 3 kids that stay without a dad, a young woman without his husband, the parents that lose both sons. It's crazy. It's difficult to understand.
For his wife, devastation beyond words. Just 1 week ago, she'd married the love of her life, and now he was gone forever. For Jota's mother, the pain is unimaginable, losing 2 sons in such a horrifying manner in one moment. Out of love and respect, Liverpool retired Jota's number 20 jersey. They promised to pay the remainder of his 2-year contract to his family and opened a trust fund for his children. The love, unity, and respect shown in such devastating times reminded everyone what football family truly means.
Really, really sad days, as you can imagine. But today was a day that we showed that we are a very, very large but close family. And everything that we receive all over the world, it means a lot. And today we are all one football family.
I see the crossroads coming up ahead. A choice I make, but haven't made yet. Why do pathways feel so threatening?
To Diogo Jota and Andre, football will never forget you. May your souls rest in eternal peace. But while tragedy has given us some of football's darkest moments, the beautiful game has also given us tears of pure joy. Tears shed not from loss, but from dreams finally coming true after decades of waiting. Let's continue with some of the most emotional moments in football history.
We start with two players who witnessed the most horrible thing of their lives while on board a plane to play finals in a football league.
Na hora, eu não quis sair dali. Aí eu vi o Foma, olhar pra ele, ele insistiu pra eu sentar com ele.
The celebrations of this Brazilian team took a turn for the worse when they onboarded Lemia Flight 2933 in 2016, not knowing what awaited them. Chapecoense had recently qualified for the finals of Copa Sudamericana and were flying from Brazil to Medellin. The clips of their celebration made their way to social media, but before they could play in the finals, the flight crashed.
The deadly plane crash, the images of that team celebrating along the way on their journey. But then the flight overnight crashing, nearly everyone on board was... The flight was carrying a Brazilian soccer team to a finals match, crashing on a hillside in Colombia. And we have just learned here what happened right before that crash.
And along with 52 other passengers, 19 Brazilian footballers met a tragic end. Luckily, 6 people were somehow found outside the plane near the crash site and survived. Among them were these 2 players who survived the crash, but had to watch their whole team perish before them.
Quando eu acordei e aí veio esse psicólogo e com os doutores, junto com os doutores da Colômbia, o psicólogo falou: ó, Jacques, o seu avião caiu, o avião de vocês caiu, fez boom, você perdeu a perna, não vai poder mais jogar futebol.
Next, how would you like to live with the guilt of sending someone forcefully on their last flight? On January 21st, 2019, when Argentinian footballer Emiliano Sala and his pilot David Ibatson were seen at Nantes Atlantic Airport checking in to board their flight. No one knew the tragic route their plane would take. No one, except for maybe Ibatson.
David Ibbotson raised concerns about the plane.
I picked a footballer from Cardiff. He's just been bought from Nantes. I think it's about £20 million worth or something. They've entrusted me to pick him up in a Dodge Mirage. You normally have the life jacket in between your seats, but tomorrow we're wearing the life jacket, that's for sure. This aircraft, I think it's got to go back in the hangar. Might be your last chance to have a good old chat with me in a good old boat tomorrow. Normally have the life jacket
This was the pilot of the flight showing his concerns to his friends over the status of the plane he was about to fly, taking Salah to his new team. The footballer was making his move from Nantes to Cardiff, but he didn't want to leave his hometown. He made the decision under immense pressure from his family, coach, and mentors, and hopped on the plane. Because of the language barrier, Salah couldn't communicate properly with his pilot. But even he had fears that he shared with his family over a voice message.
Hermanitos, ¿cómo andan loquitos locos? Hermano, estoy muerto.
Así que nada, muchachos. Estoy acá arriba del avión que parece que se está poca de a pedazo. 1 hora y media no tiene novedades mías. No sé si van a mandar a alguien a buscarme porque no me van a encontrar, pero ya saben. Papá, qué miedo que tengo.
Unfortunately, all of his fears turned out to be true. The plane disappeared from radar with no contact with anyone on board. The entire football world was in shock. Many football stars, including Kylian Mbappe, raised nearly $540,000 to fund a private search for Salah. Everyone was hoping for good news, but 2 weeks later, their worst fears were confirmed. The wreckage of the plane was found 220 feet below the water, with Salah's body inside. David Ibatson's body was never recovered. Just hours before the crash, the very last photograph Salah posted on his Instagram page was captioned, La Ultima Ciao, the last goodbye, which, tragically, turned out to be true. But that caption is just as good as Luka Lukashvili's magically moving hands. Thankfully, Luka Lukashvili's one clever move saved us from another heartbreaking goodbye. You see, Austria Vienna's George Teigl was knocked unconscious after suffering a head injury from a brutal collision. He swallowed his tongue and fell right on the ground with everyone waiting for the paramedics to come, but not Luka Lokashvili. Within a blink of an eye, he shoved his hand into Teigl's mouth and stopped him from choking to death. Luckily, Teigl regained consciousness and was taken to a local hospital where our hero Luka was honored with the FIFA Fair Play Award for his life-saving actions. But no amount of life-saving efforts were enough to save this next aspiring football player. In 2023, an earthquake hit Turkey like nothing ever before. The casualties and losses were incalculable. And while the media was filled with these devastating headlines, the fate of former English Premier League player Christian Atsu was hanging in doubt.
Atsu had been missing since the earthquake devastated southern Turkey on the 6th of February. His family had gathered near his home in Antakya, but after 2 weeks of searching, their hope ran out.
Atsu was playing for Hatayspor in the Turkish Super League and was scheduled to fly out of the area hours before the earthquake hit, but stayed after scoring the winning goal in a match the day before. He was last seen in his house, which became a pile of rubble after the earthquake. Search and rescue teams tirelessly sought signs of him, while fans clung to hope for positive news. But it was not to be. Atsu's body was discovered under the rubble of his house. His agent confirmed the heartbreaking news of his passing. His former teammates mourned his loss. May his soul rest in peace.
Newcastle will hold a minute's silence before the game following the death of their former winger Christian Atsu in the devastating earthquakes in Turkey and Syria.
Very difficult day. To wake up to that news was devastating for me, everyone associated with Newcastle, everyone who knew Christian. As you say, it puts everything into perspective. We're devastated for him and his family.
But hey, I feel like things are getting a little sadder in this video, and before it spirals out of control, how about something wholesome? And there's nothing more wholesome than fighting for your little fan. Christian Pulisic was on fire in Borussia Dortmund vs. Liverpool. But hear me out. The real drama happened after the match. A young fan made a dash from the stands, sprinting towards Pulisic to grab a quick selfie with his hero, but enter security. Before the kid could even properly reach him, the guard took him away. But not before Pulisic watched the whole thing. I love how one of the Dortmund managers is just plainly fighting with the guard. But hey, how about that time Tottenham defenders stopped a match in between play and the refs just agreed with them? The match between Newcastle and Tottenham Hotspur was stopped by the Tottenham defenders, Sergio Reguilón and Eric Dyer, who had no idea exactly what was happening in the stands, but they knew it was bad. Dyer quickly alerted the medical staff, and it became clear the fan was having a heart attack. The referee immediately stopped the game, and the players were led to an area under the stands. For 20 tense minutes, doctors worked hard to save that fan's life, and thankfully, they succeeded. The patient was then taken to the hospital for further care. The Newcastle crowd applauded the Tottenham players for their quick actions. Post-match, when they were asked about the incident, Reguilón, my guy, explained it quite humbly.
I saw one guy lying down, and one man is doing like this. I was very nervous. I went to the referee. I said, "Referee, look this. We cannot play like this. Stop the match." And the referee and the linesman looked there and stopped the match. Now I think it's okay, right? I think it's okay.
We hear he's in a
That's
stable
more important than everything. That's more important.
One of football's most tragic events happened when a helicopter took off from a stadium and crashed 2 minutes later. This crash right here led to the most shocking news ever to come out of a football stadium.
The BBC has been told the owner of Leicester City Football Club was on board the helicopter.
They crashed and burst into flames just minutes after taking off from the King Power Stadium last night.
Reports later showed everything was working fine on the helicopter until suddenly the control shaft, which keeps it balanced, broke. It sent the copter spiraling out of control just above the roof of the stadium. Honestly, everything happened so fast, it's hard to even wrap your head around it. The aftermath scenes were heartbreaking, and no one on board survived the crash. The owner of Leicester City Football Club, Wichaisi Wadanaprapa, along with 2 staff members and 2 pilots, all gone in an instant. It was such a tragedy that brought the whole community together. Fans placed memorials outside the stadium.
It's just terrible because they're such nice people. They're really genuine, humble people that care for the community and for the club and the people. It's just terrible.
Just thoughts of everybody on board, you know, the pilots, the family, everybody. It's just the thoughts are for them and their families, really, first thing.
And when Jamie Vardy, Leicester's star player, showed up to pay his respects, he couldn't hold back his tears. Leicester's players played their next game to honor their owner.
55 on the clock, and how much does this goal mean to Demarai Gray and Leicester City Football Club?
But that was not it. After the match, the team flew 6,000 miles to Bangkok for the owner's funeral. And man, when they all greeted Wichai's son, standing and mourning his father, it just doesn't get any sadder than that. Back in 2011, Jody Lukaku was Amsterdam's shining star, a winger with speed, charisma, and an eye for goals. But as the years passed, he struggled to maintain that momentum.
Nou, je laatste keer bij Ajax, want ik lees allemaal geruchten dat je verhuurd wil worden of verkocht wil worden. Wat zijn jouw plannen?
Dat weet ik nog niet. Beide opties zijn bespreekbaar. Verhuren, verkopen, bij Ajax blijven. Alles is bespreekbaar, dus ik zie het wel.
Bouncing from one team to another across the Netherlands, Bulgaria, and Turkey. Then, in 2021, it seemed like fate was giving him a second chance to shine when he decided to return to Dutch football with Twente. But that happiness was short-lived. A devastating knee injury shattered his dreams. And if that wasn't enough, things took a darker turn when he attended a family party and got into a physical fight with his own cousins and their friends. The punches he took were brutal, leaving him battered and bruised. He was taken to the hospital with knee and head pain. After amputations and being put in an artificial coma, he died of a cardiac arrest at the age of 29 at a hospital in Almere. Fans gathered at Twente Stadium to honor the former Ajax player, but emotions ran high when his young son stepped onto the field, his tiny steps echoing through the silence.
Dan voetbal, vaak zelfs. Vandaag is zo'n dag. Zo'n dag waar je met gemengde gevoelens naar een voetbalwedstrijd gaat kijken. Want het zal u vast niet...
Twente players and staff, some with tears, gathered around him.
Jody Lukoki is overlijk bericht voor de hele voetbalwereld, maar ook in het bijzonder voor alles en iedereen dat Twente een warm hart en de rest is geschiedenis.
Man, it's hard to watch. But do us a favor, if you're learning anything by watching this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Unless you want to end up like Lionel Messi in this next clip. During the Copa America final in 2016, it looked like Messi took all the blame for losing when he missed his penalty against Chile.
Argentina last summer, he went to the left of Claudio Bravo and scored. Bravo, 6'1", made. Can Messi put Argentina in front? He missed it!
The dreams of lifting the trophy for Argentina shattered when Messi's side lost in penalties. While Chilean players celebrated their victory, Argentines were crying, and rightly so. It was a tough blow to absorb. But then came another final of Copa America in 2021, and this time, Messi's side was ready.
Argentina are champions of South America. Neymar and Messi embrace. Finally comes to an end. Tears as well, not just on the pitch.
Messi and Neymar sharing a hug became the talk of the town. Wait, no. It became the talk of the world, actually. At least these two legends had each other to hug. Because my guy Vinicius Jr., just 18, had to go through this pain of a career-ending injury alone. Considered one of the best players in the world, Vinicius was known for his pace, finishing, and dribbling ability. He was injured when he took a shot against Ajax. With tears welling up in his eyes, he wasn't ready to leave the field. Luckily for him and all his fans, his injury was not career-threatening. When he came back and scored his first goal, his celebrations told everyone just how much he missed being on the field and how much football means to him.
Whether it does or not, the end result is the same. It's in the back of the net. 1-0.
Vinicius just had an injury to overcome. Danish star Christian Eriksen proved seasoned cardiologists wrong. In May 2021, Eriksen suffered a cardiac arrest in the 42nd minute of Denmark's first game of the European Championship against Finland. And the Danish fans' cheers quickly turned to tears as they watched their best midfielder fight for his life. Players and referees swiftly formed a circle around Eriksen to block the cameras. The whole stadium fell into a deadly silence. In those critical moments, Captain Simon Kjær rose to the occasion and repositioned Eriksen's tongue to prevent him from choking on it and started CPR until the medical team arrived. While doctors worked to revive him, Kjær comforted Eriksen's wife, Sabrina. After 15 intense minutes, Eriksen was carried out of the stadium and rushed to the hospital. After that, some thought his career was over. The world anxiously waited for good news, and thankfully, the hospital confirmed that Eriksen was alive and well. Fans from all around the globe sent him flowers, encouraging the player to keep fighting. And then, after a long wait of 259 days, Eriksen was back on the pitch for the second time. There were many teary eyes in the stadium that day. That reminds me of Dario Asugo, who cried tears of happiness when he stepped on the field as the youngest player in Sporting Lisbon's history. That day, the football world welcomed a kid on his way to greatness. And, well, no one can forget the time when an equally great legend was laid to rest. In 2020, Diego Maradona, known as the Golden Boy, died. And as much as we'll miss him for his insane goals and dribbling skills, there's one person who'll miss him for the person and father he was, his daughter Dalma. The pair used to cheer together for Boca Juniors, and when the team dedicated a goal to Maradona after his demise, Dalma couldn't help but cry. Showing how much her dad meant to her. And if tears are meant to show love, then Jermaine Defoe definitely proved his love for this little mascot suffering from cancer.
Very sad news. You'll all remember Bradley Lowery, who was the Sunderland fan, who was a mascot for Sunderland quite a few times last season. We know that he was best friends with Jermaine Defoe. We saw Jermaine Defoe break down in his news conference at Bournemouth yesterday because Bradley's condition was deteriorating. He suffered from neuroblastoma.
For English player Defoe, this cute little kid was no less than a son and best friend. It was evident from his breakdown at a news conference.
Into perspective. I mean, there's not a day that goes past where, where I don't wake up in the morning and sort of like check my phone or think about little Bradley, because his love's genuine and I can see it in his eyes when he looks at me. So it's just, it's special, so yeah.
The young Sunderland fan who became a beloved mascot for the team suffered from neuroblastoma, a rare cancer. With his innocence, Bradley touched the hearts of many, especially Defoe. And when he died, the news broke the hearts of all his fans, including Defoe and mine. May his soul rest in peace, and may he keep playing football in the heavens. Just like Frank Lampard continued playing even when he was on the verge of giving up, Yes, Frank lost his mother in 2008, but he turned that pain into gain for Chelsea when he scored a goal that helped Chelsea get into their first ever European Cup.
Big fan in particular. Lampard scores! And that is something special!
He broke down after that goal and dedicated the win to his mother. Speaking of cups and finals, I just remembered the insane frustration of Chelsea players when they lost their chance at a final, all because of one man working against them. Chelsea was facing Barcelona in the 2009 Champions League semi-finals. The first leg, a snoozer, which ended in a dull draw. So everything was riding on the second leg in Stamford Bridge. And bam!
Lampard looking to pull it back.
Just 9 minutes in, Essien decides to rock the world with an absolute banger. Chelsea fans, they're going bonkers, of course. But then, referee Tom Henning-Overbo becomes public enemy number one for Chelsea supporters, denying them not one, not two, but 4 clear penalties.
To keep that one in, he was really caught by surprise then. Good play by Malouda who goes down. Really magnificent. Drogba does smash. Lampard has helped him through, and Drogba controls. He's gone down. The referee looked at his linesman, and they're gone here. Anelka has had handball against PK. The referee says no. Does he move hand? Terry, Eto broke from him. He's gone down. Red shirt as Lampard takes the corner and was up there and got ahead to it.
Despite dominating the game, Chelsea's lead is only 1 goal. And don't forget, this was the time when away goals counted, which meant Barcelona only needed 1 goal to send Chelsea packing. And in the 93rd minute, Iniesta scored that dagger of a goal.
Eto broke from him, but it's Iniesta! And the Chelsea cover their eyes in horror. 2 from time, and it's heartbreak at Stamford Bridge.
Wait, that goal shouldn't have counted because of an alleged handball by Barcelona's Samuel Eto'o, but the ref failed to notice it and awarded the goal. After the final whistle, Chelsea fans were upset. And not to mention Didier Drogba, who confronted the ref for his outright brutal blunders.
From Norway is the strongest official you can put. This is supposed to...
What happened with Chelsea at Stamford Bridge is easily the most painful exit in the history of football. But it's nothing compared to losing a life. Dying on the field you love playing on. I don't know if it's tragic or an honor. It was a normal match between Dynamo Bucharesti and Viitorul Constantia in 2016 when Patrick Ekang, a Cameroonian professional footballer, collapsed on the field just 7 minutes after coming on as a substitute. No one knew at the time, but he never got up. It was a tragic demise, the cause of which turned out to be a heart attack. Now from an unexpected medical episode to being targeted just because of your fame. Just ask Tottenham Hotspur midfielder Dele Alli. After buying a luxurious mansion and flashy rides, he thought he was on top of the world. But then, Premier League players started to fall victim to robberies. Dele brushed that off. I mean, just look at his security. He's got fences and a warning sign. Well, that wasn't enough to stop those robbers at all. One night, armed robbers invaded his home while he was with his partner, and at knife point, they robbed him of all the gold they could find in that $1 million mansion. This left Ali with a black eye, £350,000 dent, and unable to train for weeks.
Good morning. The England midfielder Dele Alli is held at knife point during a burglary at his home. Jewellery was stolen and Ali punched during the incident at his house in North London.
I'm glad he made it out of that situation alive. But Messi and his whole squad wouldn't have escaped certain death if it weren't for 18 minutes. In 2016, the Argentine squad faced a crushing 3-0 loss in the World Cup qualifiers. After leaving the stadium, they hurried to board the Avro RJ-85 airplane. Initially, everything seemed routine, but 4 hours into the flight, the plane ran out of fuel. Suddenly, the entire team and club staff were in grave danger as the fuel gauge hit empty. The Pilots tried frantically contacting airports or landing strips, but to no avail. No one was getting in contact with the cockpit crew, and panic set in as minutes passed, and the team clung to hope for dear life. Finally, someone responded, and with just 18 minutes left, the plane made a miraculous landing just in time. But forget minutes, because in the football world, all it takes are a mere 17 seconds to turn a star into shadow. Abdelak Nouri was destined to do great things. I mean, the best in his field kind of great. I'm not kidding. It was evident from his time in Ajax's youth academy, which he joined at just 7 years old. He captained teams throughout his youth career. His positive personality earned him love from the entire club. People used to call him Appy. And when he made his debut on September 21st, 2016, alongside rising stars Matthijs de Ligt and Frenkie de Jong, he was the brightest among all on the field.
Mag ik hem nemen? En de kleine Nouri mag het doen. En hij doet het!
On a summer day in Austria, during a friendly game, the 20-year-old midfielder suddenly collapsed because of cardiac arrest. It took the medics a critical 17 seconds to get on the field. This lapse led to severe, permanent brain damage, meaning Nouri would never play football again. Ajax later admitted that the initial medical response was not good enough. The news devastated Amsterdam.
En klapt voor Abdelhak Nouri. Daar staat zijn broer, daar staat zijn vader. Een hart.
Appy was loved by everyone and had thousands of fans, players, and staff gathering in front of his house to show their support and respect. The scene was filled with tears and emotions as the community rallied around Nouri and his family.
Hi Nouri, I'm Cristiano. It's just to wish you a happy birthday. I wish that you recover fast.
And I'm glad that at least no one tried to make a fortune out of his misery like one fan did with Messi. This might sound ridiculous, but after wearing Blaugrana jersey for 17 seasons, making the record appearances for the club, scoring the most goals, winning the most titles, having the most wins, our star Messi had to do the most difficult thing of his life. Officially ending things with Barcelona in a press conference. And one fan made $1 million off of it. Messi spent nearly 2 decades playing for Barcelona. The club was like a second home to him, and when he was forced to leave, he couldn't control his emotions.
Buen día. La verdad que no sé si va a poder hablar. En estos últimos días estuve pensando, dándole vuelta a ver qué iba a decir, qué podía decir. La verdad que no me salía nada. Estaba bloqueado, como no estoy ahora todavía. Es muy difícil esto para mí. Después de tantos años, no estaba preparado. Gracias a todo el mundo.
This was the time when his wife handed over a tissue for him to wipe his tears. Well, with so many emotions welling up, Messi had to use that tissue again and again. But he had no idea this tissue was going to make more headlines than the amount of times he used it. One of his fans in the room snatched that tissue and put it on eBay for a whopping $1 million. Yeah, they claimed Messi's tears could clone him in the future or something. But hold on, it actually gets weirder. Messi's biggest fan was a supermodel, and she was after that tissue because all she wanted to do with it is pose naked with it. And she was ready to cough up some serious bucks for it. But coughing up bucks is far better than outright abusing a whole country. Now you know Zlatan, and you know he doesn't tolerate nonsense. So when his PSG team lost a match against Bordeaux, apparently because of a bad referee call, he couldn't control his anger.
Referee in this country. Don't even deserve peace. He should be in this country.
Now, let's just agree that Zlatan crossed a line he shouldn't have. So much so that a French politician, Marine Le Pen, asked him to hit the road and leave France if he didn't like the country and its people. Of course, our guy realized his mistake and apologized to the French people.
First of all, I was not aiming for the people or whoever there. When I said it, I was angry in that moment, and whoever felt offended or took it in a wrong way, if they took it, I apologize for them. I have no problem.
But I wonder if the parents of Kevin De Bruyne regret abandoning their son in his childhood. This isn't widely known, but his journey to stardom began with a childhood tragedy that could have crushed his dreams, but instead, it ignited a fire within him. Growing up in Belgium, Kevin dreamed of becoming a professional football player. But living in a small city meant he didn't have the opportunities he needed to succeed. So, at just 14 years old, he made a bold decision to leave his parents and attend a boarding school in pursuit of his passion. Initially, things seemed to be going well for Kevin, but at the end of the year, his foster parents dropped a bombshell. They didn't want him back because they found him difficult to handle. It was a devastating blow, but instead of giving up, Kevin used it as fuel to prove them wrong, and he turned that pain into motivation.
I say goodbye to the foster parents. I come home and my parents were like sad, crying, and I'm like, what's wrong? The foster parents don't want you to come back anymore. I'm like, why? Because of who you are. I'm like, what? Yeah, you're difficult to handle, you're very quiet. The kids who were there, it's very difficult to interact. They just find you difficult. Yeah, it's not nice to hear because in the end, I'm just a quiet person, shy person, and that's been given to me as difficult. So in the end, you're like...
He worked his way up from the second team of Genk to eventually landing a spot at Manchester City, one of the biggest clubs in the world. There, he dazzled fans with his skill and determination.
Little bit of space out wide for De Bruyne. De Bruyne now with a bending cross. Haaland! 1-0 City! De Bruyne gets his 100th Premier League assist. Of course he does!
Earning accolades and setting records along the way. His perseverance paid off when finishing third in the Ballon d'Or voting, solidifying his status as one of the best players in the world.
Conversation, I think, beginning of the season, somewhere in August, with the mother. The mother came there because obviously she had the other people coming there, and she started to explain, yeah, but we wanted you to go to the boarding school, and then in the weekend you can come. And I just said at that time, I'm like, you don't want me, I don't care. I don't care about you guys anymore. You know, I was nice to you. You didn't have the decency to say it. I'm 17 years old, I will say it to your face, I don't like you anymore.
I wonder what those foster parents are thinking now. Not like Jack Grealish, who may or may not regret flaunting his fancy watches on social media. You'd think his most heartbreaking moment would be losing a big game or something. But this all started when one day Jack posted on Instagram a horrifying revelation. Criminal gangs were after him. All thanks to the thousands of dollars that he wears on his wrist. Pateks, Rolexes, all the expensive watches in the world. No wonder the collection was worth over $1 million. Unfortunately, he made many more headlines when he decided to upgrade to a brand new mega mansion, and the blueprints of the house got leaked. Now the gangs knew how, where, and when to attack the player. December 27, 2023, they struck. They managed to break in, turn off security alarms, steal all the watches, all while leaving no trace behind. Police tried their best to capture the culprits, but so far haven't. And this is when Jack came up with another statement, this time for those culprits. I can't begin to explain how devastated I am over the burglary that took place at my home a few days ago. This has been a traumatic experience for all of us. I'm just so grateful that nobody was hurt. I've had so many amazing experiences and achievements over the last 12 months, but to be honest, the best year of my life in football now doesn't feel like something I can celebrate. The people that commit these terrible crimes have no idea of the damage they cause to people's lives. I hope they're found and brought to justice so no other family has to go through what we have. That's a clean move against those criminals, but what Messi did for Yedlin might be his best move of all time. DeAndre Yedlin was the skipper before Messi joined Inter Miami. When Messi arrived, Yedlin handed over the captain's armband without fuss. After Inter Miami's huge win over Nashville in the league's cup final, Messi ensured that Yedlin got his due recognition. As the team was about to get on the podium to take the trophy, Messi not only gave the armband back to Yedlin, he also lifted the trophy together with him. Kindness goes a long way, and I believe that Messi and Mesut Ozil think the same too. During a match between Arsenal and Atletico Madrid, Mesut Ozil showed some naughty fans how to handle bread. You see, for Muslims, bread and all food items are sacred because they see them as God's blessings. So, when one fan threw a piece of bread onto the field, instead of getting offended, Ozil picked up the bread, put it to his forehead, kissed it, and then set it aside. Now, before moving to our top 3 picks, let's see the challenging time Manchester City faced when their midfielder, David Silva, received terrible news. His son was born 3 months premature and his life was in danger. Naturally, he couldn't play and rushed to Valencia to be with his wife while doctors fought to save their baby. Manchester City had a crucial match against Tottenham Hotspur, and just moments before the match, Pep Guardiola gave a speech that proved how well bonded that Man City team actually was.
Today you have to win for one reason. We have to win for David Silva and his girlfriend, Jessica. He's suffering the life. When you go out there and you enjoy for him. And we don't go out there and we suffer for him. And remember the situation, today I want the win for David Silva and his girlfriend and his family. Is that clear?
Those words struck a chord with the team, and the players took the field with fire and ended up crushing Tottenham 4-1. Kevin De Bruyne's tribute after scoring a goal was particularly touching. He pointed to the camera and showed the number 21, David's number. Fortunately, David's son pulled through and was saved. But now grab your tissues, friends, because with our top 3, things get really emotional. At number 3, Zlatan. Now, we've all seen our fair share of Zlatan making moves, kicking, shouting, fighting. We never expect this lion of a man to show his vulnerable side to us, but here we are. Despite having the reputation for being one of the fiercest players on the field, beneath that tough exterior, he's got a softer side. That came out during his departure from AC Milan. Zlatan wasn't just a footballer, he was a hero to the people of Milan. He poured his heart and soul into that community, donating his own money to support local causes and spearheading fundraisers for hospitals. On the field, he was a force to be reckoned with, leading AC Milan to victories and titles they hadn't seen in years. But, as they say, all good things must come to an end. When it was time for Zlatan to hang up his boots, AC Milan pulled out all the stops to give him the send-off he deserved. The stadium was packed to the rafters, and as Zlatan stepped onto the pitch for the last time, the atmosphere was electric. Fans were already in tears, and when his teammates presented him with a jersey signed by all of them, it was too much for our lion to bear. Tears streamed down his face as he looked around at the people who'd supported him throughout his career. It was a moment of raw emotion, a testament to the impact he made both on and off the field. And in that moment, Zlatan showed us that even the toughest of players have a soft spot. But it's nothing compared to parenting 23 siblings. Patrice Evra, a name synonymous with football greatness. This French left-back didn't just grace the pitch, he owned it. He didn't just play for clubs like Man United and Juventus, he dominated for them, winning the Premier League 5 times with United and lifting the prestigious Champions League trophy in 2008. He left his mark. But what makes Evra truly remarkable isn't just his success on the pitch, it's his journey from humble beginnings. Born in Senegal and raised in a gritty neighborhood outside Paris, Evra's childhood was far from easy. with a whopping 23 siblings.
I'm not joking when I say I've got 24 brothers and sisters, and my nephews call me Santa because, you know, when it's Christmas, I try to please everyone, and I want everyone to have a roof and to have food, you know. I just I feel blessed.
Life was a constant hustle, but through it all, family remained his rock. Even now, with all the fame and fortune, Evra stays grounded. Sure, he cruises around London in a slick custom Mercedes SLS AMG, but he'll be the first to remind you that what matters most is his family's well-being. His road to success wasn't paved with gold. He's been open about the tough times he faced growing up. Stealing food, fighting to survive. It was a struggle.
That's why I'm not ashamed and afraid to say I steal things, I steal food, I steal clothes, I steal video game, I fight a lot, I beg. You don't have the choice, you know? You don't have a choice, no matter if you're a good boy or bad.
But every hardship only made him stronger. And now, the man is a Santa Claus for his family that just keeps on giving. Honestly, if I had that many siblings, I might have forgotten the name of about half of them. And while we're on forgetting, no one is going to forget in decades what happened in the finals of the FIFA World Cup in 2022. The 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar wrapped up with an absolutely unforgettable final. Argentina started strong, jumping out to a 2-0 lead with goals from Messi and Angel Di Maria.
A breath, a heartbeat. Alvarez, here's McAllister. Di Maria is the spare man. Angel Di Maria!
But then, France's Kylian Mbappe brought the drama, scoring twice in quick succession to tie things up and send the game into extra time.
Obliged. France just might. Mbappe. Thuram.
The tension was through the roof as both teams fought hard. In extra time, Messi scored again, making it look like Argentina had this in the bag. But Mbappe wasn't done yet. He completed his hat trick with a late penalty, pushing the game to a nerve-wracking penalty shootout. Argentina's goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez stepped up big time, making the crucial saves and helping Argentina win 4-2 in the shootout. When the final whistle blew, the emotions spilled over. Messi, tears in his eyes, lifted up the World Cup trophy. It was Argentina's third World Cup title and their first since 1986, breaking a 36-year dry spell. For Messi, this was the cherry on top of an incredible career, finally snagging the trophy that had always been just out of reach.
But while Messi's story gave us tears of joy and redemption, football has also witnessed moments where passion turned into something far darker. Moments where the line between love and hate became blurred, and where one mistake on the pitch led to unspeakable tragedy off it. These next moments will break your heart in a completely different way.
From the tragic loss of Jota to Lionel Messi's emotional goodbye, these are the 20 most heartbreaking moments in football. And first, Cristiano Ronaldo's partner, Georgina Rodriguez, went into labor expecting to deliver twins. But while Ronaldo anxiously awaited the arrival of his kids, the worst possible scenario happened.
It is with the deepest sadness we have to announce that our baby boy has passed away. Only the birth of our baby girl gives us the strength to live this moment with some hope and happiness. Our baby boy, you are our angel. We will always love you.
One of the twins sadly passed away, breaking the hearts of the entire Ronaldo family.
This is with me. It's something that I want to hold for the rest of my life. And pass through in that moment was probably the most difficult moment that I had in my life, me and my family especially.
Tributes and condolences came from the entire footballing community. But what stood out most was the ovation from the Liverpool fans.
This is a great moment where Anfield rises in support of Cristiano Ronaldo. This fan-led
minutes applause. Certainly not just the Manchester United fans, all of the Liverpool fans right the way around Anfield. Football comes together. Everybody in football knows what's really important, and that is what has happened to Cristiano Ronaldo. And that's a wonderful moment of support for our number 7 with a minute's applause.
Hearing the words "You'll never walk alone" echo throughout the stadium is what football is all about. But at number 19, Barcelona experienced one of the most heartbreaking moments in the club's history. Death, taxes, and Messi being a Barcelona player were the most constant things in life. But on August 8th, 2021, the unthinkable happened.
Buen día. La verdad que no sé si voy a poder hablar. En estos últimos días estuve pensando, dándole vuelta a ver qué iba a decir, qué podía decir. La verdad que no me salía nada. Estaba bloqueado, como no estoy ahora todavía. Es muy difícil esto para mí. Después de tantos años, no estaba preparado. Gracias a todo el mundo.
Seeing Messi cry bitterly as he announced his departure from Barcelona is something that haunts the fans to this very day. The pain was further compounded by the fact that he tried everything possible to remain at the club.
No sé, lo que tengo claro es que yo sí hice todo lo posible. El club, la Porta, dijo que no se pudo por un tema de liga, pero escuché muchísimas cosas que se dijo sobre mí, por qué no seguía o lo que sea, pero te puedo asegurar que de mi parte también hice todo lo posible para quedarme, porque quería quedarme. El año pasado no quería quedarme y también lo dije, y este año sí que quería y no se pudo.
But while this hurts in many ways, it pales in comparison to the tragic passing of Diego Jota.
The funeral of Liverpool forward Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva has taken place in Gondomar, just outside Porto.
This heartbreaking story started with this collision. Jota was sidelined for a month with a collapsed lung, but instead of getting treatment immediately, he decided to have surgery at the end of the season. After his surgery, the doctor advised him against traveling by air. However, since he had to attend his own wedding, he and his brother Andre traveled by road. After getting married to his beautiful wife, Jota had to travel back for Liverpool's pre-season tour. So he said his goodbyes, kissed his wife and kids, and then he and his brother zoomed off. While traveling on a highway near Zamora in Spain, Jota's Lamborghini hit a pothole, veered off the road, and burst into flames. Jota and his brother Andre were no more. The images of the crash were horrifying to see. Imagining what they went through in their final moments is beyond scary. This loss was a blow in the gut. A footballer in his prime, who just got married to the love of his life, is now gone in an instant.
Diogo was really a nice guy. And people in Liverpool, they know what I'm saying is the truth. Something really crazy. 3 kids that stay without a dad, a young woman without his husband, the parents that lose both sons. It's crazy. It's difficult to understand.
sad days, as you can imagine. But today was a day that we showed that we are a very, very large but close family. And everything that we receive all over the world, it means a lot. And today we are all one football family.
I see the crossroads coming up ahead. A choice I make, but haven't made yet. Why do pathways feel so threatening?
To Jota and Andre, we will never forget you. In the same way, fans will never forget what happened at number 17. In a match between Austria Vienna and Wolfsberger, George Teigl collided with his opponent's knee and fell to the ground unconscious. Seeing him struggling to stay alive, Luka Lokoshvili rushed to the scene and brought out George's tongue. This sharp thinking helped him to breathe, ultimately saving the player's life.
Participaciones.
However, not all rescues have a good ending. While playing a match in the Romanian league, Patrick Ikang fell motionless to the ground. Noticing the seriousness of the situation, the referee halted the game as the doctors rushed to his aid. He lay there fighting for his life as the doctors did everything to help him. Eventually, an ambulance carried him away to a hospital. But after just 2 hours, he sadly passed away. This heartbreaking news caused unimaginable pain to his family, teammates, and the entire football world. Tributes came in from all around the world, but the most touching of them all was the one organized by fans of his club. To think, this is just 5 out of the 20 moments we've got lined up. I'll suggest you get tissues close by, because still to come is an unfortunate murder in Colombia. Ibrahimovic crying, and a helicopter crash. But before we get to those, the player at number 15 played the most heartbreaking game of his life. While lining up alongside his Ivorian teammates, Siri Daye suddenly burst into uncontrollable tears. You could tell this was a man who had bottled up so much pain. So when he was asked why he was crying, he said he remembered his father, who had died 10 years ago. But for Derek Formella, death came knocking just as he was about to play a match. 3 hours before he was scheduled to play in a USL match, Formella was told that his father had tragically passed away. This news hit him hard, but he didn't notify his club or anyone else for that matter. As fate would have it, Formella scored his team's winning goal, and that's when all the pain came rushing out. But while he paid tribute to his dad, another kid experienced the most traumatic moment of his life. During a match between Dordrecht and Den Bosch, a group of crazy fans began throwing fireworks and bombs. Unfortunately for this kid, he was sitting right in front of the action. So when he turned and saw what was happening, he panicked and ran onto the pitch. Putting a child in harm's way is unforgivable. Thankfully, the referee saw the situation and evacuated the field. And speaking of childhood trauma, Dele Alli sat with Gary Neville to share a truly heartbreaking story. After lighting up the Premier League at a very young age, Dele Alli's career suddenly went downhill.
Probably the saddest moment for me was when Mourinho was manager. I think I was 24. And I remember there was one session, like one morning I woke up, I had to go training. This is when he'd stopped playing me. And I was in a bad place, and I remember just looking in the mirror and I was asking if I could retire now. At 24, you know, doing the thing I love. For me, that was heartbreaking. To even have had that thought at 24 to want to retire, that hurt me a lot. That was another thing that I had to carry. Like, I don't blame Mourinho, I don't blame anyone, you know. My reaction to that wasn't right, but it wasn't something I had control over. It was my reality of when I was younger, the traumas I had, things I dealt with throughout my life.
While most people assumed it was lack of effort, Dele told Neville what he had to go through as a child.
I mean, I think there was a few incidents that can give you kind of a brief understanding. At 6, I was molested by my mum's friend who was at the house a lot. So my mum was an alcoholic. 7, I started smoking. 8, I started dealing. 11, I was hung off a bridge.
By who?
A guy from the next estate, a man. Sorry.
He was abused at 6, smoked and sold drugs at 8, and was hanged off a bridge at 11. Even Neville cried after hearing all that. But at number 11, Ibrahimovic cried on live TV. Yeah, that's not a glitch. Players, fans, and management of AC Milan organized a befitting tribute to a living legend, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. From the lights, music, and red carpet, you could tell he meant so much to this football club. But when he heard his name being sung by fans in the stadium, the legend broke down in tears. This goes to show that no matter how tough a person is, saying goodbye to something they love will break their heart. This reminds me of the traumatizing events of June 12, 2021. 41 minutes into the match between Denmark and Finland, Danish star Christian Eriksen suddenly collapsed to the ground.
Play is going to be halted again.
The referee stopped the game and called for help. Denmark captain Simon Kjær rushed to remove Eriksen's tongue so he could breathe properly. The rest of the players formed a ring around his body as the doctors battled to save his life. His wife was completely stunned by what was happening. The once noisy stadium fell silent as everyone prayed for Eriksen. Finally, the doctors were able to stabilize Eriksen and he was rushed to the hospital. I cannot imagine how it must have felt to be in that stadium that day.
Rigshospitalet, der kom de også op flere gange og sagde, at der kom flere blomster, der kom flere blomster. Det er jo lidt underligt, fordi det var ikke fordi jeg ligesom ønskede, at folk skulle sende blomster, fordi jeg ligesom var mødte i 5 minutter. Så det var sådan lidt, det var specielt, det var meget specielt. Men igen, det var sødt, at folk ville, og det igen, altså det har kun hjulpet, at der kommer så mange best wishes.
But this trauma pales in comparison to what happened to Liverpool fans in 1989. The Liverpool fans traveled in their thousands to support their team in a crucial FA semi-final at the Hillsborough Stadium in Sheffield. As the away side, the fans were allocated a small section of the stadium. But as the time for the match approached, the large crowd of Liverpool fans gathered to enter the tiny space allocated to them. This resulted in a huge pileup of people, prompting a policeman to request that the kickoff be delayed. However, when his request was denied, the police decided to open 2 more gates to allow people to enter freely. A decision that turned out to be a huge mistake. Thousands of fans rushed in at once, pressing and climbing on top of each other. The pressure became so intense that some cut holes in the perimeter fencing just to escape the crowd. But the ones who couldn't get away died while still standing. A total of 97 people lost their lives, with a further 766 injured, making it the deadliest disaster in British sports history. Speaking of disasters, what happened to Marc-Vivien Foé sent an entire country into mourning. With a few minutes left in the match between Cameroon and Colombia, Marc-Vivien Foé suddenly fell to the ground. At first, it appeared to be a leg injury, but when he stopped moving entirely, the referee called for medical assistance. The doctors rushed onto the pitch to try and help, but the look on Marc's face was horrifying. His hands were dangling from the stretcher as he left the pitch. A few minutes later, he passed away.
Victime, semble-t-il, d'une rupture d'anévrisme, ce drame a bouleversé ses équipiers, mais aussi les joueurs de l'équipe de France. De nombreux Bleus avaient côtoyé Marc-Vivien Foé en club.
The news sent shockwaves across the world, as Foé had been a popular figure in both the Cameroonian and French national teams. This was evident when his friends in the French team cried during their own match.
On pense bien sûr à Marco maintenant. Parce que c'était pas évident pour...
Tributes came in from all over the world as everyone spoke of his great personality and infectious humor. His club, Manchester City, retired his number 23 jersey and created a memorial garden in his name. His country gave him a state funeral to commemorate a player who was loved by all. This show of love reminds me of an Argentine maestro whose passing triggered worldwide mourning. Diego Maradona was more than just a footballer. He inspired hope, courage, defiance, and joy in the hearts of many football fans. But after living a fun-filled life, he sadly passed away from illness. His death plunged millions of fans into mourning, but perhaps the person who felt it most was his daughter. When he was alive, they did everything together. So when Boca Juniors dedicated their goal to her father, she just had to let the pain come out. But while the Boca fans honored their legend, the Leicester City fans witnessed the most traumatic moment of their lives. After watching his side take on West Ham United, Leicester City owner Vichai, alongside his girlfriend, boarded a helicopter that would take them to the airport. But as they took off from inside the stadium, the chopper hit something, went into an uncontrollable spin, and crashed, killing everyone on board.
The BBC has been told the owner of Leicester City Football Club was on board the helicopter. They crashed and burst into flames just minutes after taking off from the King Power Stadium last night.
The entire football world struggled to come to terms with the loss. This was a man who watched his side play only a few minutes ago. Fans gathered in numbers to pay tribute.
It's just terrible because they're such nice people, really genuine, humble people that care for the community and for the club and the people. It's just terrible.
Just thoughts of everybody on board, you know, the pilots, the family, everybody. It's just the thoughts are for them and their families, really.
For the Leicester City players, it was the worst moment of their lives. He was more than an owner. He was like a father. So when the time to bury him came, they all flew to Thailand to pay their respects to a man who meant so much to them.
.55 on the clock, and how much does this goal mean to Demarai Gray and Leicester City Football Club?
But at number 5, a club's celebrations turned into a deadly encounter. On the final day of the 1985 season, fans of Bradford City were in a celebratory mood as their team received the 3rd Division trophy. But while they were dancing in the stands, a TV pundit noticed a small fire. Before the stewards could locate it, the whole section of the stadium was engulfed in flames.
Now I can see the orange of the flames. The game is actually stopped here at Valley Parade. Before that, there was a certain amount of shaking of fists and a bit of a hoo-ha at that far end. And they're running out of the ground now from that far end at this moment. And I'm hoping that the police, I can see some policemen's helmets over there.
It trapped some fans in their seats. Some escaped through emergency exits, while others ran onto the pitch. But despite all their efforts, 56 people lost their lives, with an additional 265 suffering injuries. This tragedy led to stricter safety standards in UK stadiums, including the ban on wooden grandstands. However, those who lost loved ones that day will never forget this traumatic event. Just like the Manchester United fans will always remember the Busby Babes. After defeating Red Star Belgrade, the aircraft carrying the Manchester United team stopped at Munich to refuel. But when it was time to leave, the pilot had to abandon takeoff after noticing a fault in the left engine.
Switches off. Ignition boost switches off.
The players and staff were all asked to leave the plane and return to the lounge. By this time, it began to snow heavily, and taking off under such conditions was impossible. But they were falling behind schedule. The pilot called everyone back to attempt another takeoff. As the plane was gaining speed, power suddenly dropped, making it impossible to lift off. With no way to stop, the plane skidded off the runway and crashed.
Uniform, I'm ready to taxi, over.
Line 609, your clearance void, you've got F1
Understand, valid till 04. Full power again.
The pilots know what they're doing.
Something goes wrong.
Christ, we're not going to make it!
In all, 23 out of the 44 people aboard lost their lives, making it the most heartbreaking event in the club's history. But at number 3, a player mysteriously disappeared in Turkey.
Newcastle will hold a minute's silence before the game following the death of their former winger Christian Atsu.
After a magnitude 7.8 earthquake hit Turkey, the agent and friends of Christian Atsu raised an alarm when the player was nowhere to be found. This news sent fans into panic mode. Where was he? Is he still alive? 24 hours later, his club, Hatayspor, announced that he had been found. But the next day, they changed their story, throwing fans into another round of panic. The search for Atsu went on for 9 days, until his lifeless body was found under rubble.
Atsu had been missing since the earthquake devastated southern Turkey on the 6th of February. His family had gathered near his home in Antakya, but after 2 weeks of searching, their hope ran out.
Tributes are being paid to former English Premier League player Christian Atsu after his body was recovered from the rubble in southern Turkey nearly 2 weeks after earthquakes struck the region.
Tributes poured in from around the footballing family as nature once again claimed a shining star.
Newcastle will hold a minute's silence before the game following the death of their former winger Christian Atsu in the devastating earthquakes in Turkey and Syria.
Very difficult day. To wake up to that news was devastating for me, everyone associated with Newcastle, everyone who knew Christian. As you say, it puts everything into perspective. We're devastated for him and his family.
His body was transported to Ghana, where he was given an emotional funeral.
For the funeral of footballer Christian Atsu, who died last month in the earthquake in Turkey.
However, we must also pay respect to the 45,000 people who also lost their lives in this tragedy. May their souls rest in peace. This sad story reminds me of another player who lost his life in tragic circumstances.
An Italian soccer player died earlier today on the pitch. Livorno midfielder Pier Mario Morosini suffering cardiac arrest.
While playing in a match between Pescara and Livorno, Morosini fell to the ground, stood up, and then completely lost consciousness. Doctors rushed to try to save his life, but as he was being stretchered off the field, the players and coaches broke down in tears. On their way to the hospital, Morosini sadly passed away. The entire football world was thrown into mourning over another tragedy. Tribute started pouring in. All Italian matches were suspended that weekend as the whole country mourned.
An Italian soccer player died earlier today on the pitch. Livorno midfielder Pier Mario Morosini suffering cardiac arrest and collapsing during a Serie B match. As a result, all Italian matches this weekend were called off.
During his funeral, thousands of fans gathered in the streets of Bergamo, applauding and waving at his body. However, football reached its lowest point with the events at number 1. After losing their opening group game of the 1994 World Cup, Colombia's captain Andrés Escobar led his teammates with hopes of turning things around against the U.S. But as the game went on, Escobar scored an unfortunate own goal. Having lost 2 of their opening 3 games, the Colombians needed a miracle to progress out of the group. But despite winning their last match 2-0, it still wasn't enough. As a result of their elimination, Escobar became the most hated man in his country because of his own goal. And against all advice, he still went back to his country to holiday. 5 days after, he took some of his friends to a club in Medellin. They ate, had drinks, and danced. But while waiting in the car for them to leave, 2 men pulled up to his vehicle and shot him 6 times. He was rushed to the hospital, but after 45 minutes, he passed away. This tragic news sent shockwaves across the world. Why on earth would anyone go that far because of football? 120,000 angry and emotional fans gathered for his funeral. You could tell this really hurt. This moment will forever remain a stain in the history of the sport.
But while Escobar's death came from hatred and violence, sometimes tragedy strikes without warning.
without reason, right there on the pitch in front of thousands. Sometimes players simply collapse and never get back up, leaving everyone asking why. These next moments are one of those heartbreaking losses that football will never forget.
Let's begin with the most horrifying news of 2025.
The funeral of Liverpool forward Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva has taken place in Gondomar, just outside Porto.
In October 2024, Diogo Jota suffered a lung injury after colliding with Chelsea's Tosin. This injury sidelined him for over a month, but since he could play through the pain, Jota opted for a proper treatment at the end of the season. So when the season ended, Jota underwent surgery to address the pain he had suffered throughout the year. After a successful surgery, Diogo was advised against traveling by air until he had fully recovered. But since he had to attend his own wedding, Jota opted to travel by road. He and his brother Andre successfully arrived in Portugal by road, to a beehive of activities. But despite this being the happiest moment of their lives, little did they know that this was the start of an endless nightmare. After spending another week with his family, it was time for Jota to return to the UK for Liverpool's pre-season tour. So he and his brother took their car once again to travel back. While traveling on a highway near Zamora in Spain, the tire on their Lamborghini burst while they were trying to overtake. And then the next morning, the worst possible news broke. Jota and his brother Andre were dead. How, why, and where were the questions on everyone's lips? But when the images of the crash surfaced, they broke everyone's hearts. They stood no chance. The accident scene was just ash and smoke, and even the car couldn't be recognized. The tribute started flooding in. Fans gathered outside Anfield to pay their respects. Teammates, footballers, coaches, and everyone connected with football all paid their tributes to two lives tragically cut short while in their prime.
Diogo was really a nice guy. And people in Liverpool, they know what I'm saying is the truth. Something really crazy. 3 kids that stay without a dad, a young woman without his husband, the parents that lose both sons. It's crazy. It's difficult to understand.
For the wife, devastation. Just a week ago, she married the love of her life. And now, he was gone. For Jota's mother, I cannot fathom the kind of pain she must be in. Losing 2 sons in such a horrifying manner is unimaginable. Out of love and respect for their player, Liverpool retired Jota's jersey number 20. They also promised to pay the remainder of his 2-year contract to his family and opened a trust fund for his children. Cristiano Ronaldo also offered to train Jota's kids up to the university level. The love, unity, and respect shown in such sad times.
Really, really sad days, as you can imagine. But today was a day that we showed that we are a very, very large but close family. And everything that we receive all over the world, it means a lot. And today we are all one football family.
I see the crossroads coming up ahead. A choice I make, but haven't made yet. Why do pathways feel so threatening?
I'm not crying. You are. To Jota and Andre, football will never forget you. And may your souls rest in peace. Now let's turn our focus to number 25, where a player's quick thinking saved his opponent's life. With the match between Austria Vienna and Wolfsberger drawing to a close, Vienna's George Teigl collided with the knee of Wolfsberger's Nicholas and fell to the ground unconscious. While most players on the pitch didn't even notice what had happened, Wolfsberger's Luka Lukashvili realized the seriousness of the situation and rushed to his aid. Upon getting there, he noticed Teigl had swallowed his tongue, so he shoved his fingers into Teigl's mouth and brought out his tongue so he could breathe again. He did all of this before the doctors could even rush onto the pitch. And after Teigl made a full recovery, he posted, "Thank you, Luka Lukashvili, for your quick reactions. Your intervention may well have saved my life." For his life-saving efforts that day, Luka Lukashvili was given the FIFA Fair Play Award for the year 2022. When it comes to saving lives, you don't think, you just take action. Just like a group of Croatian firefighters did in 2018. During the quarterfinal between Croatia and Russia in the 2018 World Cup, a group of firefighters from the Zagreb Fire Department gathered in front of a TV to watch the tense penalty shootout that would guarantee a place in the semifinals. However, as Rakitic was walking down to take the decisive kick, the unthinkable happened. The alarm went off, and in split seconds, they were all scrambling to get their gear, ignoring the most important moment in Croatian football history. In just 22 seconds, they moved from watching the penalty shootout to driving out to save lives. Thankfully, the footballing gods rewarded their sacrifice, and a few of them were able to witness the victory. However, not all football games have a happy ending. In the Romanian league, what was supposed to be a normal match turned into one of the worst nightmares in history. In the 72nd minute of the match between Dynamo and Viitorul, Cameroonian midfielder Patrick Iking suddenly slumped to the ground motionless. Noticing what had happened, the referee immediately stopped the game and everyone rushed to his aid. The sight of him struggling and fighting for his life was so heartbreaking. Eventually, an ambulance came onto the pitch and took him away to the hospital. But after 2 hours, he was pronounced dead. The news sent shockwaves across the footballing world as yet again a footballer passed away while playing the game. Tributes poured in from around the world, but it was the farewell organized by his own fans that brought a tear to my eye. The banners designed in his honor and the fans all singing his name, Patrick Iking. Still, not all stories on this video are sad, because for Son and his South Korean teammates, the tears that ran down their faces were for happy reasons. Heading into the final round of group stage matches at the 2022 World Cup, South Korea needed a win to have any chance of advancing to the round of 16. Unfortunately, they were against Portugal, who had already won their first 2 matches. Essentially, they needed a miracle. But as the game started, Portugal scored in the 5th minute to all but kill their hopes.
Portugal on the front foot now. Korean Republic scrambling to get back, and they didn't get back in time.
However, they didn't give up and got the equalizer in the 27th minute.
It comes, and there's an opportunity here for an equalising goal.
The game stayed at 1-1 until the 90th minute, when Huang Hee-chan sent the entire nation into heaven.
Striding forward, Son still going, support arriving. Oh, they've scored! They've only gone and done it! It's absolutely extraordinary!
Fans, players, and coaches all were in tears as they completed the miracle. However, while football can bring incredible happiness, it can also cause pain for others, as it did for Dele Alli. After making his debut for Tottenham at the age of 18, Dele Alli took the Premier League by storm.
And Ali has drifted in, and Ali finishes with real style.
They're not stopping the crosses coming in here, Palace. Ali, great skill. Oh, what a goal!
He scored goals, provided assists, and became a key member of the young and exciting squad under Mauricio Pochettino. However, after Mourinho was brought in as the new manager, Dele fell out of favor, and from then on, his career began to decline.
Probably the saddest moment for me was when Mourinho was manager. I think I was 24. And I remember there was one session, like one morning I woke up, I had to go training. This is when he'd stopped playing me. And I was in a bad place, and I remember just looking in the mirror and I was asking if I could retire now. At 24, you know, doing the thing I love. For me, that was heartbreaking. To even have had that thought at 24 to want to retire, that hurt me a lot. That was another thing that I had to carry. Like, I don't blame Mourinho, I don't blame anyone, you know. My reaction to that wasn't right, but it wasn't something I had control over. It was my reality of when I was younger, the traumas I had, the things I dealt with throughout my life.
He ended up at Everton, then Besiktas, and finally without a club. This fall from grace pushed Dele into depression, and the once exciting footballer became addicted to sleeping pills and alcohol just to numb the pain. Then, in 2023, something snapped inside him, and he decided to do better. He went to a rehab center in the USA, and after 6 weeks, he came out a new man. Now ready to face life again, Ali sat down for an interview with Gary Neville, and that's when the world finally heard his story.
I mean, I think there was a few incidents that can give you kind of a brief understanding. At 6, I was molested by my mum's friend, who was at the house a lot. So my mum was an alcoholic. 7, I started smoking. 8, I started dealing. 11, I was hung off a bridge.
By who?
A guy from the next estate, a man. Sorry.
He was sexually abused at 6, started smoking and selling at 8, and was hanged off a bridge at 11. Even Neville couldn't hold back tears after hearing his story. I'm not crying, you are. But to think, this is just 5 out of the 25 most emotional moments. You're in for a roller coaster ride.
I'm literally getting goosebumps.
Because still to come is Messi making a journalist cry and the brutal assassination of a footballer. Before we get to those, let's see the story of a footballer who cheated death. 41 minutes into the Euro 2020 match between Denmark and Finland, Danish star Christian Eriksen suddenly collapsed on the pitch. The stadium, which had been loud with cheering fans, suddenly fell quiet as the crowd looked on in hope and prayer. Denmark captain Simon Kjær quickly removed Eriksen's tongue to stop him from choking. Then he and the other players gathered round to cover their teammate as the doctors battled to keep Eriksen alive. Eriksen's wife looked on in despair and had to be comforted by Kjær. The rest of the world eagerly waited, hoping. until news broke out that he had survived. Fans rushed to the hospital holding flowers and offering prayers for a man who meant so much to the Danish people.
I Rigshospitalet, der kom de også op flere gange og sagde, at der kom flere blomster, der kom flere blomster. Og det er jo lidt underligt, fordi det var ikke fordi jeg ligesom ønskede, at folk skulle sende blomster, fordi jeg ligesom var død i 5 minutter. Så det var sådan lidt, det var specielt, det var meget specielt. Men igen, det var sødt, at folk ville, og det har kun hjulpet, at der kom så mange.
Having seen so many players pass away from similar situations, it is heartwarming to see him survive. And after 1 year, Eriksson was back playing football. In his first game back, something happened yet again that blew everyone's minds. During a match between Brentford and Norwich City, Eriksson wrestled Brandon Williams to the ground while trying to win the ball. Upset by his tackle, Williams wanted to fight him. But when he realized it was Eriksson, he hugged him instead.
One king to win the championship.
This moment was so heartwarming. And when he was asked why he did that, Williams said,
"Something special for him to be back on the pitch for himself and to be involved in that. I felt like he needed a hug."
But while Eriksson's story is inspiring, a young Abdelhak Nouri was so unlucky when he suffered a similar injury. In a preseason friendly between Ajax and Werder Bremen, 20-year-old Nouri suddenly collapsed when the team was on the attack. The doctors rushed in to stabilize the situation before airlifting him to the hospital. His teammates, fans, and coaches all prayed and hoped that he would make a full recovery. However, 5 days later, Ajax announced that Nouri had suffered permanent brain damage and was in a coma. This news broke the hearts of the fans and teammates who adored him. So when they noticed his brother was in the stadium, they gave him an ovation. Others made their way to the Nouri family home to show their love and support. His family was devastated by the fact that their bright and shiny star would no longer play football again. It's sad to see such a promising young talent who signed to Ajax at just age 7, captained his team throughout his time at the academy, and just when he broke into the first team, his career ended by a horrific injury.
Mag ik hem nemen? En de kleine Nouri mag het doen. En hij doet het!
So to appreciate all he did for Ajax, the team agreed to pay his family 7.85 million euros in compensation. They also agreed to cover all his medical expenses and retire his jersey, number 34, permanently.
Daar staat zijn broer, daar staat zijn vader. Een hart.
While this story had a sad ending, the fan at number 17 got special treatment for saving a man's life.
See me?
No, I wasn't. No, I'm just really surprised.
That's the whole idea.
While playing in the Sunday League, John, a Liverpool fan, suddenly collapsed and was battling for his life. Seeing the distress he was in, a fellow Sunday League player and nurse named Alex quickly administered first aid, which ultimately saved John's life. To show his gratitude, John wrote a letter to Liverpool FC informing them about how a man had saved his life.
We got this letter from John. Dear Liverpool FC, please help me to say thank you to Alex. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today.
When the guys at Liverpool read the letter, it moved them. And so they sent a letter inviting John over to visit their facility. When he arrived, Liverpool captain Virgil van Dijk took him on a ride to visit Alex at the hospital where he worked.
But you weren't expecting to see me?
No, I wasn't. No, I'm just really surprised.
That's the whole idea.
It was a nice moment as Alex was recognized for his life-saving efforts. And it's also a reminder that doing good is still the best way to live in this world.
Dear Alex, when they heard about your life in 7 actions, the care you provided for John on that day in the most difficult circumstances is truly inspirational. As a sign of that, we would like to invite you and John to Anfield during the festive period to say thank you and celebrate life. So with this in mind, Neither Men are going to make a donation in your honour to the Oliver King Foundation to ensure even more defibrillators are accessible, and we will be using our platforms in the months ahead to help raise even more awareness for the incredible work that they all do. Your story is truly special, and it was a pleasure to surprise someone as scary as yourself. Thank you.
I will also do a donation to the foundation.
Speaking of surprises, a young girl couldn't control her emotions when she saw a Premier League star.
Don't cry, yeah?
During his time at Chelsea, Eden Hazard made a surprise visit to the students of Servite RC Primary School. 2 kids who were excited to be in front of a camera were asked questions about Chelsea and the Premier League. But while at it, Eden Hazard snuck behind the kids and gave them the surprise of their lives. After seeing him in flesh and blood, the Lotto girl couldn't contain her emotions.
I think as well Hazard.
Hazard, yeah? He's the best player at Chelsea.
Hazard.
He's the best player in the Premier League?
No.
Don't cry, yeah?
Seeing this girl cry makes me realize that football is more than just a game. It's a way of life. And these kids will never, ever forget this day. But while these kids got a memory of a lifetime, the boy at number 15 was left with the most traumatic experience of his life. During a match between Den Bosch and Dordrecht, a group of overzealous fans lit up fireworks and bombs. Upon hearing the explosions, the ball boy who was sitting in front of the fans panicked and ran onto the pitch, crying and traumatized. Seeing how scared the boy was, the referee stopped the game and ordered everyone to leave the pitch. Fair play to the referee for noticing the danger and acting fast. But while these guys endangered a child, the fans at number 14 paid an emotional tribute to one of their biggest rivals. On the 18th of April 2022, Cristiano Ronaldo took to social media to make one of the most heartbreaking posts I've ever seen. He said, "It is with deepest sadness that we have to announce that our baby has passed away." The post confirmed that Ronaldo and his partner, Georgina, had lost one of their newborn twins. I cannot imagine the horror of a parent losing a child, and the rest of the footballing world shared this sentiment as tributes came in from all over the world.
Jesus is with me. It's something that I want to hold for the rest of my life. And pass through in that moment was probably the most difficult moment that I had in my life, me and my family especially.
Now, Cristiano Ronaldo and his then Manchester United teammates were scheduled to play Liverpool at Anfield the next day. But because of his loss, CR7 was given time off to grieve. On match day, something extraordinary happened at Anfield. In the 7th minute of the game, the entire Liverpool crowd gave an ovation to Cristiano Ronaldo. As the words, "You'll never walk alone," echoed throughout the stadium, it reminded us that no matter the rivalry on the pitch, humanity comes first.
This is a great moment where Anfield rises in support of Cristiano Ronaldo. This fan-led minute's applause, certainly not just the Manchester United fans, all of the Liverpool fans right the way around Anfield. Football comes together. Everybody in football knows what's really important, and that is what has happened to Cristiano Ronaldo. And that's a wonderful moment of support for our number 7 with a minute's applause.
Speaking of being human, the player at number 13 couldn't control his emotions when a sound reminded him of a painful memory. As the national anthem of the Ivory Coast blasted in the stadium speakers, Sarah Die suddenly burst into uncontrollable tears. His teammates wanted to console him, but DA wanted to pour everything out. When asked why he was crying, DA disclosed that he had lost his father exactly 10 years ago on that day. He wished badly that his dad was around to see how successful he had become. He was questioning the whole point of playing since his hero wasn't there to watch him. But for the kid at number 12, he couldn't control his tears for entirely different reasons. I want you to imagine you're sitting in a room waiting for a friend, and suddenly, a celebrity or childhood hero you've always wanted to meet walks in to say hi to you.
Saluda!
That was the situation for this kid. Radamel Falcao was his hero, and here he was, speaking with him in the same space. Of course he couldn't control himself. However, the best part is that those are tears of joy. Tears to celebrate finally meeting someone you admire and look up to. This is why they say you should never meet your idols, because you might end up embarrassing yourself. This reminds me of the time a journalist met with a player and completely lost their composure. An Argentine journalist who had been hustling for an interview with Messi for many years finally got his chance when the little magician agreed to speak with him one-on-one. However, when he saw Messi finally seated across from him, he burst into tears. Messi, who didn't understand why the man was crying, comforted him. However, the reality was that this man was just overwhelmed with happiness. Happiness that, after chasing Messi for so long, the gods had finally smiled on him. But now that we've made it to our top 10, get your tissues ready, because we're taking things to a whole new level of emotion. Starting with the mysterious disappearance of Christian Atsu.
Newcastle will hold a minute's silence before the game following the death of their former winger Christian Atsu.
After scoring a last-minute winner for his club Hatayspor, former Newcastle, Everton, and Chelsea winger Christian Atsu was declared missing after a magnitude 7.8 earthquake hit Turkey.
Atsu had been missing since the earthquake devastated southern Turkey on the 6th of February. His family had gathered near his home in Antakya, but after 2 weeks of searching, their hope ran out.
This sent his fans worldwide into panic. Where could he be? Was he still alive? After a nail-biting 24 hours, his club side announced that Atsu had been found alive. However, he had been a victim of the earthquake, falling from the 9th floor of a building. The next day, Hatayspor changed its story, saying Atsu was still missing and the search for him was ongoing. 9 days later, the worst possible scenario was confirmed.
Tributes are being paid to former English Premier League player Christian Atsu after his body was recovered from the rubble in southern Turkey nearly 2 weeks after earthquakes struck the region.
Atsu had died and was buried under the rubble. The whole football world went into mourning as fans and players paid their respects to a fallen star.
Newcastle will hold a minute's silence before the game following the death of their former winger Christian Atsu in the devastating earthquakes in Turkey and Syria.
Very difficult day. To wake up to that news was devastating for me, everyone associated with Newcastle. Everyone who knew Christian. As you say, it puts everything into perspective. We're devastated for him and his family.
His body was transported to his home country, Ghana, where he was given an emotional funeral.
Funeral of footballer Christian Atsu, who died last month in the earthquake in Turkey.
Still, we cannot forget the over 45,000 people who lost their lives in Turkey. Their lights will never extinguish. This sad story reminds me of a player whose life was cut short before it even started. After getting his dream move from Nantes to Premier League side Cardiff, Emiliano Sala was finally getting the opportunity he had worked hard for. With all agreements signed, pilot David Ibbotson was tasked with the responsibility of flying Salah to his new club. However, when Ibbotson saw the aircraft, he complained about its state.
David Ibbotson raised concerns about the plane.
I picked a footballer up from Cardiff. He's just been bought from Nantes. I think it's about £20 million worth or something. He's entrusted me to pick him up in a dodgy Mirage. Normally have my life jacket in your seats, but tomorrow we're wearing the life jacket, that's for sure. This aircraft, I think it's got to go back in the hangar. Might be your last chance to have a good old chat with me and a good old moment tomorrow, isn't it? Normally have my life jacket.
Eventually, they decided to just fly it anyway. And when they took off, Salah also expressed his concerns through this voice note.
Hermanitos, ¿cómo andan loquitos locos? Hermano, estoy muerto.
Así que nada, muchachos. Estoy acá arriba del avión que me parece que se está a poca de a pedazo. 1 hora y media no tiene novedades mías. No sé si van a mandar a alguien a buscarme porque no me van a encontrar, pero ya saben. Papá, qué miedo que tengo.
Shortly after he sent this, he, David, and the aircraft all went missing. The disappearance of the plane sparked widespread fear. After a few hours of no contact, a huge rescue operation was deployed, covering over 1,000 miles across the sea. Footballers like Mbappe, Gundogan, Koscielny, and Payet all donated over $500,000 to the rescue effort. Then, after 2 weeks of intense searching, they found the plane.
The depths of the English Channel, the plane's final resting place. For the first time, we can show you moving pictures of the wreckage in a tragedy that touched a number of lives.
220 feet deep under the water, with Salah's lifeless body still strapped to the seat. David Ibbotson, nowhere to be found, brought the emotional search to a horrifying conclusion. This tragic incident shows that footballers are human after all, which reminds me of one of the darkest periods in Manchester United's history. After defeating Red Star Belgrade to advance to the semi-finals of the European Cup, the aircraft carrying the Manchester United team, nicknamed the Busby Babes, stopped to refuel in Munich, Germany. When it was time to continue their journey, the pilots of the plane had to abandon takeoff after noticing a fault in the left engine.
Ignition boost switches off. Ignition boost switches off.
The players and staff were asked to all leave the plane and return to the lounge. By this time, it had already started snowing heavily, and taking off wasn't a good idea anyway. However, scared of falling behind schedule, the captain called everyone back to attempt another takeoff.
Uniform, I'm ready to taxi. Over.
Beeline 609, your clearance void, you got L1
Understand. Valid till 04. Full power again.
The pilots know what they're doing.
Something goes wrong.
Christ, we're not going to make it!
As the aircraft was gaining speed, power suddenly dropped, making it impossible to lift off the ground. Despite all their best efforts, the plane skidded off the runway and crashed. With an explosion imminent, everyone was scrambling to get out. Goalkeeper Harry Gregg saw a hole over his head and kicked it open, enough for him to escape. He also helped Bobby Carlton and Dennis Violet, who were still trapped in their seats. In all, 23 out of the 44 people on board lost their lives. However, not every story on this list is sad. What comes in at number 7 involves Manchester United again, but in better circumstances. Samuel, a young Manchester United fan who had difficulty walking since birth, couldn't believe his ears when he was told that he would be taking a tour of the United training ground. He interacted with other academy kids and even played as a goalkeeper. However, the best part of his day was when he met the senior players. Goalkeeper David De Gea gave him signed gloves, and Pogba and Ibrahimovic played and took pictures with him. Seeing the smile on his face just melts my heart. This shows that a little love and care can have a profound impact on how a child perceives life. But at number 6, a player defied death to play for his football club. 3 hours before he was to play a USL match for Sacramento Republic, Derek Formella received news that his father had lost his long battle with cancer. He didn't tell anyone the news, didn't take an excuse to go home, he just carried on his day, drowning in pain. Then, in the second half of the match, Formella was brought in as a substitute. In the 81st minute, he smashed in the winner, and that's when every emotion came rushing out. Rest with the angels, Dad. But at number 5, an unfortunate event sent the nation of Italy into mourning.
An Italian soccer player died earlier today on the pitch. Born midfielder Pier Mario Morosini suffering cardiac arrest.
On the 14th of April, 2012, Morosini suddenly collapsed while playing in a match between Pescara and Livorno. He tried to get up but lost consciousness, prompting the doctors to rush and try to save him. The fans, players, and coaches were all but crying at the shocking scene they were witnessing. He was stretchered into an ambulance as the whole stadium prayed for his survival. However, on their way to the hospital, Morosini tragically passed away. His teammates, who had followed the ambulance, burst into uncontrollable tears. The rest of the Italian football community plunged into mourning. As a result, all Italian football leagues were suspended as tributes poured in from all over the world.
An Italian soccer player died earlier today on the pitch. Livorno midfielder Pier Mario Morosini suffering cardiac arrest and collapsing during a Serie B match. As a result, all Italian matches this weekend were called off.
During his funeral, thousands of fans lined the streets of Bergamo, applauding and paying their last respects to a man who had meant so much. Such a show of love by fans reminds me of the passing of the great Diego Maradona. For many fans, especially Argentines, Diego Maradona is the closest thing there is to a god of football. His skills, talent, and passion made him one of the most loved and adored footballers of all time. After hanging up his boots, Maradona didn't turn his back on the game. He regularly attended Boca Juniors Stadium to watch them play and even had his own family's VIP box. But unfortunately, he tragically passed away, leaving his daughter, fans, and friends in deep pain. As a tribute to his passing, the Boca Juniors dedicated a goal to Maradona in front of his daughter, who couldn't help but cry. Damn, I think I'm running out of tissues. But the story at number 3 is one of disappointment, anger, and fans taking football too far. After losing their opening group game of the 1994 World Cup, Colombia's captain Andres Escobar led his teammates out, hoping to turn things around against the hosts, the USA. However, bad luck struck when John Hart's cross was turned into the net by the outstretched leg of Escobar. The Colombians went on to lose the match, meaning only a miracle could help them progress out of the group. However, despite winning the third match 2-0, the damage was done, and Colombia was eliminated from the World Cup. With their hopes dashed, Escobar became the most hated man in the country, as every fan blamed their own goal for their misfortune. However, despite all this, Escobar still chose to return to Colombia for a holiday. 5 days after their elimination, Escobar took his friends out to a club in Medellin. After having a good time, he sat in the car waiting, when suddenly, 2 men pulled up next to his vehicle and shot at him 6 times. He was rushed to the hospital, but after 45 minutes, he was pronounced dead.
Llena de vergüenza. Que gritaban, gracias por el autogol. Tenía toda una vida por delante.
120,000 fans gathered for his funeral, angry and disgusted that a footballer's life was cut short because of an own goal. But the tears don't end here, because for the fans of Leicester City Football Club, 2018 will always be a year to forget. After a match between Leicester and West Ham United, Leicester City owner Vichai, alongside his girlfriend, boarded a helicopter that would take them to the airport. But as the pilot took off from inside the stadium, the tail rotor control linkage broke, sending the helicopter into a death spin. It struck the ground about 200 meters away from the stadium, killing everyone on board.
The BBC has been told the owner of Leicester City Football Club was on board the helicopter that crashed and burst into flames just minutes after taking off from the King Power Stadium last night.
The news shook the entire world as everyone struggled to comprehend what had happened. The fans, players, and everyone associated with football were thrown into deep mourning. Fans gathered in their thousands, crying and dropping flowers.
Just terrible, because they're such nice people. They're really genuine, humble people that care for the community and for the club and the people. It's just terrible.
Just thoughts of everybody on board, you know, the pilots, the family, everybody. It's just the thoughts are for them and their families.
For the Leicester players, it was like losing a father who had sacrificed so much for them to succeed. So when the time came for his funeral, the entire team flew thousands of miles to go and pay their last respects in his hometown. Then, on their first match back, Demarai Gray sent the entire stadium into tears when he scored.
55 on the clock, and how much does this goal mean to Demarai Gray and Leicester City Football Club?
Why do the good ones die quickly? That was the question Cameroonians asked when they witnessed a disturbing scene at the 2003 FIFA Confederations Cup. With a few minutes left in the match between Cameroon and Colombia, Cameroon midfielder Marc-Vivien Foé suddenly collapsed on the pitch. At first, it looked like a normal injury, but when he stopped moving, the entire stadium realized it was something far more serious. The doctors rushed to his aid, but by merely looking at his face, it was obvious he was fighting for his life. The medical team rushed him out of the field with his hands dangling freely. Then, a few minutes later, he was pronounced dead.
Victime, semble-t-il, d'une rupture d'anévrisme, ce drame a bouleversé ses équipiers, mais aussi les joueurs de l'équipe de France. De nombreux Bleus avaient côtoyé Marc-Vivien Foé en club.
How did this happen? Was the question on everyone's lips. The players in the French national team, who were friends with him, couldn't control their emotions.
On pense bien sûr à Marco maintenant, parce que c'était pas évident pour...
Numerous tributes about his joyous personality and infectious humor were expressed by everyone. This truly was a painful death. His home country organized a state burial to honor one of their brightest lions. And his club, Manchester City, retired his number 23 jersey and created a memorial garden in his name. Death is a respecter of no one. The more reason why we should show love and respect to one another while still alive.
But football isn't just about the heartbreak of loss. Sometimes it's about redemption, about perseverance, about one man's journey to silence every doubt and achieve what seemed impossible. These next emotional moments prove that.
Let's kick things off with the most disturbing story in Colombian football. You're looking at the own goal that knocked Colombia out of the 1994 World Cup. But what seemed like an unfortunate mistake turned out to be the last time Andres Escobar kicked a ball before he lost his life on the streets of Colombia. After losing their opening round game of the 1994 World Cup to Romania, Andres Escobar led out his Colombian teammates, hoping to turn things around against tournament hosts USA. But catastrophe struck when John Hark's cross flew into the Colombian box. Escobar stretched out to block the ball, only for it to tragically bounce into the net. Things got even worse in the second half as the USA doubled their lead through Ernie Stewart. Despite all their efforts to salvage something, Colombia lost the match 2-1. Having lost their opening two games, the Colombians entered the final group match, hoping for a miracle to make it into the next round. But despite winning 2-0 against Switzerland, it didn't count for anything. They were eliminated from the competition. After the match, Escobar told reporters, "Life does not end here," a statement that almost predicted his future. With the hopes of Colombian fans dashed, Escobar became the most hated footballer in his country. Many attributed the nation's exit to the own goal he allowed against the USA. But while most fans only hurled insults, there was a group of fans that took this hatred to a very dark place. Instead of going to his brother's place in Miami, Escobar opted to go back to home Colombia, even telling his sister, "I want to go to Colombia and show my face." 5 days after their elimination from the World Cup, Escobar took his friends out to a club in Medellin. After having a good time with his friends, Escobar sat in the car waiting for him, when suddenly two men pulled up next to his car and shot him 6 times. He was rushed to the hospital, but after 45 minutes, he was declared dead.
Llena de vergüenza. Una ciudad que gritaban, "Gracias por el autogol". Tenía toda una vida por delante.
120,000 fans gathered for his funeral, all traumatized because Escobar's life was cut so short when it was just starting. Which can also be said for Emiliano Sala's big move, which ended in tragedy. After securing a big money move from Nantes to Cardiff in 2019, Emiliano Sala was on his way to achieving the dream many young footballers had been praying for. He got on the plane that would take him to Cardiff to begin a new chapter. But there was a problem. His pilot, David Abbotson, wasn't comfortable with the state of the aircraft. He recorded himself right before takeoff and even sent a voice message to his friend complaining about it.
David Ibbotson raised concerns about the plane.
I picked a footballer up from Cardiff. He's just been bought from Nantes. I think it's about £20 million worth or something. They've entrusted me to pick him up in a dodgy Mirage. Normally I have the life jacket in between the seats, but tomorrow we're wearing the life jacket, that's for sure. This aircraft, I think it's got to go back in the hangar. Might be your last chance to have a good old chat with me in a good old boat tomorrow. Normally I have the life jacket.
But he wasn't the only one concerned about the safety of the plane. Sala also sent a voice recording to his family.
Hermanitos, ¿cómo andan loquitos locos? Hermano, estoy muerto.
Así que nada, muchachos. Estoy acá arriba del avión que parece que se está a caer a pedazos. 1 hora y media no tiene novedades mías. No sé si van a mandar a alguien a buscarme porque no me van a encontrar, pero ya saben. Papá, qué miedo que tengo.
Shortly after he sent that, the airplane vanished into thin air. News of the disappearance of the plane sent shockwaves around the football world. Rescuers searched over 1,000 miles across the sea, hoping by some miracle Sala and Ibbotson would be found alive. Football stars like Mbappe, Gundogan, Koscielny, and Payet donated over $500,000 to the rescue effort, but after 2 weeks of intense searching, the worst news was confirmed.
The depths of the English Channel, the plane's final resting place. For the first time, we can show you moving pictures of the wreckage in a tragedy that touched a number of lives.
The plane was found 220 feet deep in the water, with Sala's lifeless body still trapped inside. His pilot, David Ibbetson's body, was nowhere to be found. Their families, fans, and the entire football world plunged into mourning. This tragic death reminded everyone how footballers face the same risks as everybody else. Which reminds me of the time that Christian Atsu mysteriously disappeared after an earthquake in Turkey. After scoring a last-minute winner for his club, Hatayspor, former Chelsea, Newcastle, and Everton player Christian Atsu was declared missing after a magnitude 7.8 earthquake hit Turkey. This news sent fans and media into a panic, with everyone praying and hoping he'd be found.
Atsu had been missing since the earthquake devastated southern Turkey on the 6th of February. His family had gathered near his home in Antakya, but after 2 weeks of searching, their hope ran out.
After a nail-biting 24-hour wait, his club Hatayspor posted that Atsu was found alive, but he'd been plunged from the 9th floor of an 11-story building after the earthquake. His agent, Nana Sashir, was told Atsu was in stable condition at a hospital, but he had not heard from him. And the next day, Hatayspor announced again that Atsu was missing, and the search for him was continuing. 9 days later, the news that everyone feared was confirmed.
Tributes are being paid to former English Premier League player Christian Atsu after his body was recovered from the rubble in southern Turkey nearly 2 weeks after earthquakes struck the region.
Atsu's agent posted, "It is with the heaviest of hearts that I have to announce to all well-wishers that sadly Christian Atsu's body was recovered this morning. My deepest condolences to his family and loved ones. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for their prayers and support. I ask that whilst we make the necessary arrangements, that everyone would please respect the privacy of the family during this very difficult time." The football world went into mourning as fans and colleagues of Atsu poured out their tributes to a footballer who gave so much to the game. His body was taken home to Ghana, where he was given an emotional and befitting farewell.
Newcastle will hold a minute's silence before the game following the death of their former winger Christian Atsu in the devastating earthquakes in Turkey and Syria.
Very difficult day. To wake up to that news was devastating for me, everyone associated with Newcastle, everyone who knew Christian. As you say, it puts everything into perspective. We're devastated for him and his family.
Still, we cannot forget the over 45,000 people who died and the millions whose lives were ruined by that devastating earthquake. I wish them healing and recovery, just like I wish Cristiano Ronaldo and his family. On April 18th, 2022, Cristiano Ronaldo made one of the most heartbreaking posts ever. It read, "It is with the deepest sadness we have to announce that our baby boy has passed away. Only the birth of our baby girl gives us the strength to live this moment with some hope and happiness. Our baby boy, you are our angel. We will always love you." The post confirmed that Ronaldo and his partner Georgina had lost one of their newborn twins.
This is with me. It's something that I want to hold for the rest of my life. And pass through in that moment was probably the most difficult moment that I had in my life, me and my family especially.
The entire football family poured out their tributes and love to the Ronaldo family, wishing him peace and strength in that difficult time. The next day, Manchester United went to Liverpool for a Premier League match at Anfield. In the 7th minute of the game, the entire crowd gave an ovation to Cristiano Ronaldo, who was at home grieving.
Now, it is a great moment where Anfield rises in support of Cristiano Ronaldo. This fan-led minute's applause. Certainly not just the Manchester United fans, all of the Liverpool fans right the way around Anfield. Football comes together. Everybody in football knows what's really important. And that is what has happened to Cristiano Ronaldo. And that's a wonderful moment of support for our number 7 with a minute's applause.
Considering the rivalry between Liverpool and Manchester United, this was an emotional tribute. As the words, "You'll never walk alone," echoed throughout the stadium, it reminded us of how football is the one thing that connects us all together. Which reminds me of the death of a young football fan that brought everyone to tears.
Very sad news. You'll all remember Bradley Lowery, who was the Sunderland fan, who was a mascot for Sunderland quite a few times last season. We know that he was best friends with Jermaine Defoe. We saw Jermaine Defoe break down in his news conference at Bournemouth yesterday because Bradley's condition was deteriorating. He suffered from neuroblastoma.
Give him 2 minutes, yeah.
But
it's difficult, and I suppose it puts stuff into perspective. I mean, there's not a day that goes past where I don't wake up in the morning and sort of like check my phone or think about little Bradley, because his love's genuine and I can see it in his eyes when he looks at me. So it's just it's special. So yeah.
Listening to that is just heartbreaking, but it also reminds us to make as good of memories as we can with our loved ones. Because one moment they're here, and the next second they might be gone. Just like the time Christian Eriksen's wife saw her husband's life flash before her eyes. On June 12, 2021, 13,000 excited Danish and Finnish fans gathered to watch Denmark face Finland at Euro 2020. 41 minutes into the game, Danish star Christian Eriksen suddenly collapsed on the pitch. He suffered a heart attack. The once noisy stadium went completely silent and the crowd stood still, hopeful, praying that he would survive. Captain Simon Kjær quickly removed Eriksen's tongue to prevent him from choking. He and other Danish players gathered around, covering Eriksen from the stadium's cameras as the doctors battled to keep him alive. While that was happening, Kjær approached Eriksen's wife and comforted her. 15 long minutes after the collapse, the doctors rushed him to the hospital. The world eagerly awaited until it was confirmed that Eriksen had survived to fight another day. Fans poured into the hospital, bringing flowers and offering prayers, which is understandable for a man who was dead for 5 minutes. Thankfully, he made his return to football and now plays for Manchester United, still fighting and bringing joy to the fans who stood by him in his darkest moment. But speaking of heart attacks, Abdelhak Nouri's career suffered a worse fate when he collapsed on the pitch. During a preseason friendly between Ajax and Werder Bremen, a 20-year-old Nouri collapsed, suffering a cardiac arrest. The first aid rushed to try to stabilize him, but he was eventually taken to a hospital via helicopter. 5 days later, Ajax announced that Nouri had suffered permanent brain damage and may never be able to play football again. The news broke the hearts of his fans, who applauded in the stadium in front of his brother. Others made their way to the Nouri family home to show their love and respect. It's sad because he had such a promising future. His journey with Ajax began when he was just 7. He captained the team throughout his time at the academy, and when he made his senior debut, he showed the world why he was rated so highly by Ajax.
Mag ik hem nemen? En de kleine Nouri mag het doen, en hij doet het!
In February 2022, Ajax announced they'd agree with his family to pay 7.85 million euros in compensation. They also agreed to cover all medical expenses and retired his number 34 jersey.
En klapt voor Abdelhak Nouri. Daar staat zijn broer, daar staat zijn vader. Een hart.
Still, his family might never get the old Nouri back again, which is a similar type of pain the Morosini family had to endure.
An Italian soccer player died earlier today on the pitch. Born midfielder Pier Mario Morosini suffering cardiac arrest.
On April 14th, 2012, in a match between Pescara and Livorno, Morosini suddenly collapsed in the 31st minute. He tried to get up, but lost consciousness and fell to the ground. The medics rushed to the field and used a defibrillator to keep him alive. The whole stadium was shocked. Players and staff were crying, biting their nails, hoping for the best. He was stretched onto an ambulance, and it looked like he would get the help he needed. But while the ambulance was rushing to the hospital, Morosini tragically died a few minutes away from Santo Spirito Hospital. When his teammates who'd followed the ambulance heard about his death, there was an explosion of shouts and tears. This news spread fast, and the entire football community was thrown into mourning. All the Italian football matches were suspended for the weekend as tributes poured in to honor Morosini's death.
An Italian soccer player died earlier today on the pitch. Livorno midfielder Pier Mario Morosini suffering cardiac arrest and collapsing during a Serie B match. Result, all Italian matches this weekend were called off.
In his funeral, thousands of fans lined the streets of Bergamo, applauding and touching his coffin as it passed. The only family he had left was his disabled sister, who had now lost her only hope of surviving. I can't imagine how painful it is to lose family to the cold hands of death. Which reminds me of the time Siré Dié lost his father. As the national anthem of Ivory Coast blasted in a World Cup match against Colombia, Siré Dié suddenly burst into tears. His teammates tried to console him, but Dié wanted to let everything out. After the match, he disclosed that he shed his tears thinking about his father, who died 10 years earlier. Watching those tears run down his cheeks again makes me wonder, how long did he bottle that pain in? But for Derek Formella, he got the worst possible news minutes before kickoff. 3 hours before he was about to play a USL match for the Sacramento Republic, Derek Formella got the news that his father had lost his long battle with cancer. He didn't notify his club about the news, he didn't tell his teammates. In the second half against Rio Grande Valley FC, Formella was brought in as a substitute with the game tied at 1. In the 81st, he smashed in the winner, and his celebration was just heartbreaking. That one was for you, Papa. That one was for you. But what happened to Marc-Vivien Foé sent an entire country into darkness. On June 26, 2003, Cameroon went head-to-head with Colombia in the Confederations Cup. With a few minutes left on the clock, the indomitable Lions of Cameroon were leading 1-0. When suddenly, Marc-Vivien Foé collapsed on the pitch. At first, it looked like a minor injury. But when he wasn't moving after a few seconds, everyone realized it was serious. The medical team rushed onto the pitch, but the look on Foé's face was terrifying. As they stretched him out on the field, his hand was dangling without control. And some minutes later, it was confirmed that he had died. The news of his death sent shockwaves across the world as Foé held both Cameroonian and French citizenships. He had a lot of friends in the French national team, and they couldn't hold back their tears in the match.
On pense bien sûr à Marco maintenant, parce que c'était pas évident pour...
Numerous tributes about his joyous personality and infectious humor were expressed in the media. For the country of Cameroon, one of its brightest stars was extinguished. His club, Man City, retired his number 23 jersey and created a memorial garden for him at their former stadium, Main Road. The government of Cameroon gave him a state funeral, a befitting tribute to a player who was loved by fans across the world. Speaking of fans, a lot of the new generation of Man United supporters might not know that the club went through its darkest period in 1958. After defeating Red Star Belgrade to advance to the semi-finals of the European Cup, the airplane carrying the Manchester United team and supporting staff stopped to refuel in Munich, Germany. After refueling, the two pilots twice abandoned takeoff because they noticed a fault in the left engine.
Ignition boost switches off. Ignition boost switches off.
The passengers returned to the airport lounge. By then, it started snowing heavily, and it looked unlikely they were going to return to England that night. But, fearful to be behind schedule, the captain called the players back and the staff for the third attempt at taking off.
Uniform, I'm ready to taxi, over.
Beeline 609, your clearance void, you've got airborne by...
Understand, valid till 04.
As the plane was gaining speed to take off, though, power suddenly dropped, making it impossible to lift off the ground. Despite their best efforts, the aircraft skidded off the runway and crashed.
Full power again.
The pilots know what they're doing.
Something goes wrong.
Christ, we're not going to make it!
Seeing the flames inside the cockpit, the pilot feared the plane would explode, so he ordered everybody out. Goalkeeper Harry Gregg regained consciousness and felt the sunshine on his head. He looked up and saw a hole, so he kicked it wide open, enough for him to escape. He also helped his teammates Bobby Charlton and Dennis Violet, who were still strapped in their seats. Out of the 44 people on board, 23 died and 21 survived. The crash shocked the whole world and crippled Manchester United. The crash decimated the spine of the team nicknamed the Busby Babes. It took Manchester United over 10 years to recover from that tragedy. Sir Busby rebuilt the team and won the 1968 European Cup. Their victory, dedicated to their mates who died in that cold afternoon in Munich. But for the fans of Bradford City, their celebrations were taken over by fiery flames. On the final day of the 1985 Third Division season, the fans of Bradford City FC were in a celebratory mood. Their team received the Third Division trophy. A few minutes before kickoff, a TV pundit noticed a small fire in the main stand. In less than 4 minutes, the flame engulfed the whole stand because of the wind.
The flames. The game is actually stopped here at Valley Parade. Before that, there was a certain amount of shaking of fists and a bit of a hoo-ha at that far end. And they're running out of the ground now from that far end at this moment. And I'm hoping that the police, I can see some policemen's helmets over there.
As panic started, some fans were able to escape onto the field. Some got trapped in their seats. Others tried to break down emergency exit doors. But despite the best efforts of many, 56 people died and 265 more were hurt. This felt like a tragedy that was bound to happen. The Bradford Stadium had an olden-day design. The roof was made of wood, and so was that main stand. There had been several warnings on the need to modernize that structure, but the response was too late. Tragedy led to stricter safety standards in UK stadiums, including banning wooden grandstands. It became the catalyst for the mass modernization of stadiums across the country. For the families of those who lost their lives that day, the pain will never go away. Just like the Liverpool fans who remember April 15th, 1989. Leading to the highly anticipated 1989 FA Cup semi-final between Liverpool and Nottingham Forest, the Liverpool fans traveled in the thousands to Hillsborough Stadium in Sheffield to support their team. Being the away side, the Liverpool supporters were allocated a small section of that stadium, but since many of them arrived early, they decided to remain outside. But as the time for the match got closer, thousands of supporters suddenly converged on the only entrance they were given. This resulted in a huge buildup of people outside the stadium who could not get in. Their voices could be heard cheering from the outside as the teams made their way onto the pitch. Seeing how dangerous that crowd buildup was outside, a policeman radioed to request kickoff be delayed, but the request to delay it by 20 minutes was denied. Amid the increase in safety concerns, the police decided to open 2 more gates to allow more people in, but that turned out to be a costly mistake. Thousands rushed into the stadium, creating pressure at the front. People were pressed against each other by the fencing beside them and the crowd behind them. Realizing the situation was out of control, a police superintendent ran onto the pitch to get the referee's attention. That stopped the match. At that point, people were climbing the fence to escape the crush. Some made holes in the perimeter fencing to escape, but the unlucky ones died while standing to cheer their team on. 97 people died that day, and 766 more were hurt. It's the deadliest disaster in British sports history. Condolences flooded from around the world, led by the Queen, Pope John Paul II, US President George H.W. Bush, and the entire football community. A circular monument was erected with the names of those that died. Every year, fans gathered to pay their respects to them. But this wasn't the only time a disaster of this magnitude occurred. In 1964, in a match between Argentina and Peru, the Argentines were leading 1-0 with 6 minutes left in normal time. The Peruvians scored an equalizer, only for the referee to cancel the goal. The decision got the Peruvian fans angry. They invaded the pitch to express their disappointment. The fans who remained in their seats kept throwing bottles and other things onto the pitch, and in retaliation, police fired tear gas into the stands and took warning shots in the air to prevent further violence. This caused panic among the crowd, who rushed to the exits to avoid being gassed. Unfortunately, the stadium exits were narrow stairs with steel shutters at the bottom of the tunnels. The panicked supporters rushing downstairs pressed those in front against the steel shutters, and as a result, people died from the extreme pressure as the shutters finally burst open. In retaliation, the crowd started rioting, destroying private property, which led to even more clashes with the police. To stop the rioting, the Peruvian government declared a state of emergency and enacted martial law. In the end, over 328 people died, and 1,000 more were hurt. This is just heartbreaking. I hope they all made it to heaven, where they can watch legends like Maradona, who passed away in 2020. For many football fans across the world, especially Argentines, Diego Maradona wasn't just a footballer, he was a god who came to live among us men. His skills and his talent were only matched by his love for the fun side of life. So when he died, millions of fans were plunged into mourning. When he was alive, maybe one thing he loved above everything else was his daughter. Since she was a child, they would play together and watched football matches together, especially matches that involved his beloved Boca Juniors. So when they dedicated a goal to her father after he died, she just had to cry it all out. But while the Boca fans stood up to applaud a footballing legend, the fans of Bordeaux in France are going through the worst phase in their history.
I tell you something, you f***ing American, get the f*** out my club and go back to f***ing America.
Since its establishment in 1920, FC Bordeaux has proven itself to be one of the biggest clubs in French football history. It's hard to argue, judging by the fact they've won the French league title 6 times, most recently in 2009. The club's academy is also famed for training the exceptional Zinedine Zidane and Barcelona's Jules Koundé. However, their problems began when the club cited decreased revenue because of the COVID-19 pandemic. They also lost their TV sponsorship deal when MediaPro went bankrupt. To make things worse, their American owners, King Street, stopped supporting the club financially, leading to them being placed on administration.
Y'all take it easy. I'm out. Let I tell you something, you f***ing American, get the f*** out my club and go back to f***ing America.
At the end of the 2021-2022 season, the club was relegated to the French second division because of financial hardship. A few months after that, they were relegated again to the third division, but they appealed and they were reinstated to the second division. A ray of hope came when Fenway Group, the owners of the Liverpool Football Club, offered to buy the team, but when that deal collapsed, it turned out to be the beginning of the end. At the end of the 2023-2024 season, the club was yet again relegated to the third division because of financial problems. But the club opted against appealing the verdict. The worst possible news came when the club notified the French FA that they would just give up their status as a professional football club, with current player contracts being terminated and the team's training center closing indefinitely. Man, could you imagine how difficult that's got to be for players whose livelihoods just been taken? And even worse, the fans who've been part of this club from the very beginning, only to wake up one morning and it's just gone. It's the same way Chapecoense fans witnessed their club crumble in one of the darkest moments in football history.
That devastating plane crash with the Brazilian soccer team on board, this young fan is mourning this morning.
2016 looked to be the year for Chapecoense fans as their team made it to the final of the Copa Sudamericana. The anticipation was high, the joy was overwhelming, the hope of victory was felt all around the club. When the day came to travel for the final, the club chartered an airplane that would take them to Medellin. This was the same aircraft used by the Argentine national team just some days earlier to go to a World Cup qualifying match. While the fans were buzzing to see their team play in the final, they heard the worst possible news.
The deadly plane crash, the images of that team celebrating along the way on their journey. But then the flight overnight crashing, nearly everyone on board was. The flight was carrying a Brazilian soccer team to a finals match, crashing on a hillside in Colombia. And we have just learned here what happened right before that crash.
Save for only a few survivors, the entire coaching staff and team were. This news sent shockwaves across the world. It was one of the worst disasters in football history.
Eu não quis sair dali. Aí eu vi o Foma olhar para ele, ele insistiu para eu sentar com ele.
Tributes from players, coaches, fans, governments, everyone. The world was connected by the deep pain of this tragedy. Thousands of fans gathered at the stadium as victims were brought in for a memorial.
The fans at Wednesday's memorial were joined by Chapecoense's remaining players who didn't fly that day.
The tears were everywhere. The pain was even deeper, as this bad dream was indeed reality. But this tragedy showed the true power of football. Their opponents, Nacional, requested that the Chapecoense team be crowned the Sudamericana champions. Donations came in from all over the world, and players offered to play for the club for free to help it recover. They even played friendlies against big clubs like FC Barcelona to help raise money for the club. The Brazilian FA made them immune from relegation, but the club refused it. They wanted to prove they could compete at the highest level. But despite everything, the club still struggled and was eventually relegated to the second division, bringing back fresh pain of the club's golden era that was cut tragically short. It reminds me of the ordeal that Leicester City Football Club had to go through in 2018. After a match between Leicester City and West Ham United, Leicester City owner Vichai, alongside his girlfriend, boarded a helicopter that would take them to the airport. As the pilot took off from within the stadium, the tail rotor control linkage broke, sending the helicopter into an uncontrollable spin. It hit the ground about 200 meters away from the stadium, killing everyone on board.
The BBC has been told the owner of Leicester City Football Club was on board the helicopter that crashed and burst into flames just minutes after taking off from the King Power Stadium last night.
The news shook the entire world as people struggled to come to terms with what had happened. The club owner, who brought back glory to Leicester City, was gone. Fans gathered in the stands crying, paying tribute to a man they loved deeply.
It's just terrible because they're such nice people. Really genuine, humble people that care for the community and for the club and the people. It's just terrible.
Just thoughts of everybody on board, you know, the pilots, the family, everybody. It's just the thoughts are for them and their families, really, first thing.
For the players, he was like a father figure. He loved each of them and wasn't shy to show it. So when it came time to bury him, the entire team went halfway around the world to his home country of Thailand to attend his funeral. After paying their last respects, the players came back to England. On their first match after his death, a goal scored by Demarai Gray sent the entire stadium into tears.
And how much does this goal mean to Demarai Gray and Leicester City Football Club?
That one was for you, Vichai. But not everything on this list is tragic, because for Cristiano Ronaldo, July 10th, 2016 will live forever in his memory. After battling their way to the Euro 2016 final, Cristiano Ronaldo led his teammates out one last time, hoping to make history. But halfway into the first half, an injury to Ronaldo meant he couldn't continue the game. The Portugal captain was devastated. He couldn't control his tears as the hopes that he had carried on his shoulders were shattered. But despite being hurt, he kept urging his teammates from the sidelines, almost like an assistant coach. With Portugal leading 1-0, he was visibly nervous on the sidelines. But when the referee blew the final whistle, he let it all out. Cristiano Ronaldo had finally broken the jinx by leading Portugal to their first ever trophy. Six years after that, Lionel Messi achieved what might have settled the GOAT debate. Despite doing great things for FC Barcelona, there was always something that seemed to hold Lionel Messi back when he played for Argentina. He narrowly lost the 2014 World Cup final against Germany, then lost the 2015 and 2016 Copa Americana finals against Chile. It got so bad that the Argentine fans turned on him, leading to Messi retiring from international football. But after he had a change of heart, he came back to the team and finally led them to victory in the 2021 Copa America final in Brazil.
But the run is over now. Argentina are champions of South America. Neymar and Messi embrace. Finally comes to an end. Tears as well, not just on the pitch.
Still, Messi wasn't satisfied. He desperately wanted to add a World Cup trophy to his stellar collection. But at 35 years old, he knew the 2022 World Cup was his last chance at glory. Still, they started the tournament poorly after an embarrassing loss to Saudi Arabia. Fueled by that defeat, Messi assured the Argentine fans they would not let them down. And boy, did they catch fire. They made their way to the final, defeating teams like the Netherlands and Croatia. But the biggest test yet was the final against defending champion France. On the day of the final, Messi looked up to the sky and said, "Grandma, it might be today." After kickoff, they rushed to a 2-goal lead.
A breath, a heartbeat. Alvarez, here's McAllister. Di Maria is the spare man. And Di Maria!
But the brilliance of Kylian Mbappe took the game to extra time, tied at 2.
Mbappe, compelled, obliged. France just might. Mbappe, Thuram, Mbappe!
Messi added a third, which was cancelled out by Mbappe yet again. With the last kick of the game, it looked like the demons of past would haunt Messi, only for Martinez to make arguably the most important save in his career. After the final penalty kick that won Argentina the World Cup, Messi fell to his knees in tears. His teammates swarmed him to celebrate. They couldn't believe it. They were the champions of the world, all thanks to the incredible performance and leadership of their star player, Lionel Messi.
But beyond these heartbreaking moments, football has also given us some of the scariest moments ever witnessed on a pitch. I'm talking about stadiums collapsing, a club owner storming the field with a gun, and fans literally throwing flares at their players. Click the next video to watch those terrifying moments.